NUFC Early Night News with Gary DeJordy Yum Yum, Andrew Boki, Christina Cage, and Derek the Mighty Wind. Weekdays from 8 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. USA. NUFC Talk.
There we go. NUFC Talk TV. Welcome one and all. I'm your host Tim, and tonight we have Borky, we have the Yum Yum, Gary with us. Good to see you, mate.
How you doing? You okay?
Hiya, mate. All good, mate. All good. We have Ian as well on the way, so he'll join us very soon. So yeah, some news tonight with Anthony Gordon, so we'll get into that. It's interesting stuff. Before we do that, once again, we are live on YouTube and the website nufcradio.com. So please give the video a like, keep the comments coming, give us a super chat if you want to guarantee your comment being read out. Give us a super chat if you want to guarantee your comments as well anytime. And if you can, become a member for $4.99, where you'll gain exclusive content. So Ian is on his way. He will be with us soon. And yeah, just as we've started the show, before I've came on here, I've been reading about Anthony Gordon. And he has apparently agreed to join Barca, as Newcastle and Barca have agreed a fee. And the fee is 60 million, rising to 70 million. So we'll get into that. Before we do, I can see we've got Mark in the chat there. Good to see you, mate. Yeah, he said he'd take 70 million. The Bevis there as well. And Harpel, many others. So thanks for joining us. So, yeah, we'll get into it. I mean, I'll just say first what I think about Anthony Gordon and the deal. I'm happy. I'm really chuffed that we've got this sorted. We've got it sorted early, because I've been reading about Hopkinson and reading about Ross Wilson, that they are determined to get this summer started quick, unlike last summer, and put those wrongs right this time. And Bayern Munich were haggling a little bit, but as soon as Barca have came in with a fee that we deem acceptable, we've said we'll take it, good to go. So some would say that 60 million upfront isn't enough. It is rising to 70. We don't know what the caveats are. What do you think of that? Gary, I'll come to you first, mate. Are you happy about this getting done so quick? Are you happy with the price? And are you happy that Gordon is leaving?
I think the first thing for me is, I think Gordon has used Everton as a stepping stone to get to us, and I think he's used Newcastle to get as a stepping stone to move on. We've seen, he's a good player. You can see there's a player there. He's an international, and I'm sure wherever he goes, whether it be Bayern Munich or Barca, obviously, it looks like a Barca agreement, you'll probably see the true player. He wants the highlights, if you like, the high level to play at. I don't blame him. For me, Newcastle need to get shot of players that have used us, if you like. They've done the job that they believe they've done that job, and they want to move on now. There is no point in having those players at Newcastle United. I just have to question your figures, because I've read a report, and again, I don't know how true it is, but I read several reports once I heard the news, and the initial figures were around about 60. They closed on 70 with add-ons, which is 80 million euros, and the add-ons could be, it's somewhere north of 75 million is the guesstimate that people are saying. If obviously Anthony Gordon opens the doors and achieves what everybody is expecting him to. So for me, I think £70 million is probably the benchmark. I wouldn't have accepted anything less. And the fact that obviously we've paid off a massive chunk of that. So that to me is a healthy pot to start the summer transfer for Newcastle. And like I say, for me, I just think you just need rid of players that believe you know, they can do better elsewhere. Because that ain't helpful for Newcastle players when the mindset is gone, and you could see that with, like I said, for me, what is the point in him being on the bench the last few games? It literally he's just taking a seat for somebody else that could have been, like I say, at least giving a cameo for 15, 20 minutes if that was the said. And, you know, it's really weird because I was listening to you guys the other day, and I am diversifying a little bit. But, you know, you talk about Hall not being picked for the side. I don't think that's got nothing to do when you think that Anthony Gordon hasn't played for Newcastle for such a long time now, since this hip injury. You know, the last 6 games, I believe it is, and yet he still made the England camp. So, as was stated, I think, by James, I think he has got a set, you know, a system in mind to play, and unfortunately, Lewis Hall just doesn't fit into that. But again, I don't think Lewis Hall is one that will go. I think Lewis Hall will stay, even though there's lots of rumours. But there's players within Newcastle that need to be gone if seriously. And again, this is where Eddie Howe has got to sit down with these players, and they've got to make a decision. Who's going to move them forward? And the players that aren't willing to put the hard yards in, move them on. And go and get players, go and find players out there, the same as the other teams around us that are fighting for the same positions. They do it year in, year out. When their good players go, get cherry-picked, they seem to bring players in that hit the ground running. Newcastle need to be on board with that.
Yeah, just before I move on as well to somebody else, I'm just reading here, it's Fabrizio Romano. He's saying that it's a €70 million fixed fee. Plus add-ons. So I'm just kind of guesstimating that is downgraded, obviously, in pound sterling to 60, but maybe it's a tad more than that. And then obviously, rising over to €80 million. But yeah, and I agree with what you're saying there, Gary. I think, you know, anybody who doesn't want to play for Newcastle United, you know, it's pointless trying to haggle and trying to persuade them like we did with Hijack. You know, if they firmly want to leave, then get the fee in and get them out. But I think Anthony Gordon, for a player who's underwhelmed for me in the last 2 years, I think we've done really well there. Borky, yeah, what do you think?
I just want to, RBO is put in there that I don't know anything. He's saying that I wanted Gordon to have a cameo. No, I didn't. I didn't say Gordon. I didn't think Gordon should have been on the bench, because what he did is took a space up for one of the youngsters that could potentially move us forward. That is what I wanted to see as a cameo. Not Gordon play at all. Not even be on the bench. Didn't even want him to wear a shirt. So I just wanted to correct that. Thanks, mate.
I think for me, it's don't let the door slap you on the arse on the way out with Gordon now, isn't it? Sort of thing.
Absolutely.
You know, he's wanted away from the club. It's been obvious. Let's be honest, this hip injury, if it was anything, it wouldn't have kept him out this long. You know, if you want to play through the pain barrier, you can. You know, look at the likes of, Longstaff last season. He had an injury, and he played with pain injections. You know, and to be on the bench and not play, it was daft for him to go on the bench, but it was also daft for the manager to put him on the bench, because it was obvious he wasn't going to play football. We didn't want to play, and we didn't really want to play him. So, you know, as Gary says, put a youngster on, put a Park on the bench, put a Shaw on the bench, put somebody on the bench who actually can be part of Newcastle United's future. Gordon's not going to be. Gordon was never going to be that. It was obvious 7 games out he wasn't. To be honest, he's the best winger we've got. He's probably the best striker we've got in some regards. But if he doesn't want to be here and he wants to be out, you don't keep hold of him. You get rid. And everything Gary said was right in regards to you've got to, you know, get rid of him quick and move on to the next player. Forget about him. He's gone, and he'll go on and hopefully have a better career, and hopefully Newcastle United will be better without him. That's what you want.
Yeah. Ian, are you with us? Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Hey, the voice is there.
It's a great price for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's the right time for him to go on. I think he was fantastic for us before the Premier League had worked out that intensity was our identity. As soon as they did that and started playing much lower blocks, defensive blocks on us, I don't think he's been anywhere near as effective. He's certainly not a technical player like Voltemada or Ramsey is. He's just all speed. And I think we've outgrown it. I hope we've outgrown that. So he's going at the right time. I'm amazed that either Bayern or Barca think they need somebody like that, to be honest, because I think they're far more technical than we could even aspire to be at the minute. But it could be that, maybe they've got those players already and they do need somebody who can run in behind. Might be a centre forward at those two teams. But, good luck to him. Thanks very much. What a shame this last season's been a disappointment. But, take the money quickly and let's get it invested.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember, honestly, like this time last year, I was literally saying, you know what, if somebody came in with 70 million for Gordon, I'd take it. And I know there was more hesitation then because a lot of people thought, well, he's had a bit of an underwhelming season, but he'll be back this season, the one just gone. But it didn't really happen, did it? I know the stats say otherwise, but a lot of those are penalties, and I don't take away the skill in converting those penalties and the bottle that you need to do that. So I'm not discounting that. But at the end of the day, if there was no difference between the goals and open play and penalties in terms of having the craft and skill to score, then there wouldn't be such a lopsidedness with the amount of goals he scored in open play and the amount of goals he scored through penalties. So I think that does tell you something in terms of what he's been given to the team, not just in moments when we get a penalty. But my question as well is, we're sitting here, we're saying it's a great price and it was great to move him on. But what are Barcelona seeing and Bayern Munich? They're the experts. What are we missing with this? What's made them come in, Ian, for Anthony Gordon?
I think his pace is fantastic, isn't it? And if in Newcastle his pace gets him down the wing, cuts in, has a shot, goes around the back of the fullback, it's all down to him to utilise his pace and find the space that he needs. And with a team that's playing a low block, two blocks of four, it doesn't work because they double up on him, they treble up on him sometimes. I think if you've got technical players in the midfield who can pick a pass, who can find the space behind a fullback, you then need somebody with that electric pace to get in behind and in the clear. Then, you just need someone who can keep ahead of them to square a ball across the box. Could be really, really effective. I mean, there's obviously something there, but I think everything's built around his electric pace and his Duracell battery pressing. It's not because he's a really technical player. He doesn't take players on and beat them through skill. Not all the time.
Yeah. Anybody should be under
knocks the ball past him and runs past them, doesn't he?
I don't think anybody should be under the impression that Gordon's not a good player. I think he's technically a brilliant player. That
first choice for England.
Yeah, I think that's why these big teams want him. He's a great player, and we're all losing a massive talent by getting rid of him at this point. There's no denying that. I don't think anybody could sit here and say, "Oh, he's a bad player," but he's not the type of player that is going to stay at a club like ours at the minute. He will move on. As Gary said, he moved from Everton to us to progress his career. His next stage is to move on to the next level. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to get to the next level of your career. And Newcastle aren't there yet, and potentially he is. So I think don't sit here and kid yourselves on that we're sort of, not you guys, but like people in the chat and everything saying we're not bothered. We're losing a fantastic player, but he's just he doesn't want to be here, so it's the right time to sell. We're seeing the Hijack situation last season, so this is the right thing to do. But we're losing a hell of a player.
I think we're losing a hell of a potential player, and I think the potential is there for him to kick on and be that explosive winger / forward that he could be. I think with the season that he's had, and you could say last season as well, I do think he's landed a bit lucky with this move, just purely with that in mind. But like you say, he's obviously got ability, and we've seen it in his first full season, didn't we? So, yeah, I think it's the right time, isn't it? It's timing in football is everything, isn't it? A lot of the time, so it's the right moment for him to move from us. And Barcelona, they're getting somebody a bit different, maybe as well, to who they've normally had, and they might think they can get that from him, but also mold him a bit more into what he wants to become, because it does seem like he wants to become a bit more like a silky winger as opposed to a raw, intense, spiky winger, which I thought was more suited to him. But it'll be interesting to see how he develops. That's for sure. I want to go through some of the comments here.
Sorry,
Uh,
Tim.
What?
I fancy that he fancies himself as a number 9,
Aye.
taking the penalties,
Aye.
side footing it in the 6-yard box, understudying Kane, maybe, replacing Lewandowski. The gaps in those two teams are
Where he wants to be.
at number 9. And I think he took over from Hijack at centre forward with all that swagger. Just couldn't deliver the same results that Hijack did. He wants to be the number 9, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, how long ago is it since we've seen him marauding down the left wing? I struggle to think of a game where he did that this season. I've seen him. I remember him playing centre forward and actually picking up some really good centre forward traits where he dropped and then spun in round. I think he fancies himself as a centre forward.
Gary?
Report
Can I just
from
cover
Spain.
off that? Can I just quickly cover off the elephant in the room as well? Wynn's not here tonight because he's tied to the gates up in Forest Hall where Gordon lives. He's got himself chained there saying there's no chance you're leaving, my boy. So that's where Wynn is.
Yeah, I mean, just going on for what Ian was saying there, the rumour is that they see him as a good option for their forward line because of what it can give them. Also, the fact that he has got, if you think he's got a rare blend of football, Anthony Gordon, when he's on his game, and I think Hansi Flick probably the right coach to probably develop that, because if you look at the way the La Liga sits back against the likes of Barcelona, who are very heavily possession based, it gives them something different. He's like a 1v1 threat. So when you've got ball passers, the pedigree that they've got, Barcelona, I think what you'll have, if Anthony Gordon comes in from the left-hand side, he'll approach those interior lanes, those inside lanes on the left to right diagonal. He's going to be able to break a lot of lines with that pace. And like you said, I think he's going to be a bit of a hybrid. Hansi Flick will see him potentially be able to go up top, but also he covers what I believe where, if you're looking, there's a wide open space on that left-hand side. It's a natural position for him to go in Marcus Rashford. And people are saying, well, I think Rashford's better. I agree, there's probably a better player in Rashford. The problem is with Rashford, when he has a bad game, he has a bad game, and there's no getting away with that. I think Anthony Gordon's one of those players, as we saw in his better years, probably a better 18 months at Newcastle. When he's hungry, he's a good player. He can play. He's got that possession. It stretches back lines, and like I say, if you look at the way their midfield set up, what they're looking for, which at the minute with Lewandowski hasn't got the legs to break those lines. So when they've played the ball into the right areas, they've not had anybody that can get on the end of them. And I think, like I said, he's a hybrid. He can go on the left-hand side. He can play up top. And I think Hansi Flick sees that from him. Depending on the type of opposition that they're playing against, he's got a player there that will fit in both positions quite comfortably.
Aye. Do you think he'll play on the right for Barca?
Like I said, I think at the end of the day, now he's there, I think he'll play anywhere the gaffer asks him, because he won't have an option.
Yeah, that'll be interesting if he's asked that
Yeah.
question. But yeah, I agree. And I mean, I'm thinking of some of the games that he's had. I remember one game where the shine was taken off him for good reason, and that was the West Ham game at home where Harvey Barnes had the spotlight, and he came off the bench and scored two, well, definitely brilliant second goal, but got us the 3 points. But Anthony Gordon in that game was really good as well, and he won that penalty to get us back level, I think. And that was because he was buzzing around, he didn't stop moving. in the penalty box. And yeah, like you're saying there, Gary, about his movement, I think that game sort of comes to mind, really. He's had a lot of games in his in that particular season, those first 18 months anyway, where he never stopped, did he? He was like a fly buzzing around, and an absolute nightmare for the opposition. So if you get that version, then yeah, I think he's a great asset. I think it's funny you say Rashford, because there's definitely comparisons between the two in that when they're not on it, mentally, I think you can see it, and mentally you can see that that 10% less that they're giving, and they're not really putting some of the hard yards in that they could. Yeah.
Do you know what the weird thing is with Gordon is how some players are loved and some players aren't. You know, you have players like Holden, who we're discussing the other night, Tonali, you know, players who are absolutely adored by the fans, loved. You look at Gordon and he's the career he's had at Newcastle. He should be in that sort of group of players, have that sort of reputation. But he's not particularly. I don't think there's any fan out there, apart from Win, who's chained to them gates, who are saying that they're particularly upset about this, which is strange for somebody who's we're all saying we're best winger. Probably, I think we would all agree with that, and who scored goals for her. Done a good job for her. You know, he has done a good job over the seasons, but he's just, for some reason, not loved by the fans.
Ian?
I'm a big fan, Boki, but I think there's a good time to go for every player, and this is a good time for Gordon to go. I think we would have been all chained to the railings if he decided to go 2 years ago. But getting sent off, missing the final, not really doing much at the end of that season, and then suddenly being invented as a centre forward who couldn't score for this season, and checking out, he has done, hasn't he? I think there's a knock-on effect that Gordon kept getting picked. Barnes kept getting dropped when he was playing well. Voltemada ended up playing in midfield, so Gordon could be the centre forward. And that's why Howe hasn't picked him, because after all of that, Gordon's told him, I'm not staying around here when you're not in Europe, I'm off.
Yeah, I think
Howe is let down as much as he is by Hijack saying he's not going to come back with Gordon because he's chucked everything at him to try and keep him.
Well, exactly, and I think he's chucked too much at him. And I think in terms of the best left winger, I think Harvey Barnes, different profiles, aren't they? You know, Barnes just hasn't got that burst of pace that Anthony Gordon has. But over the course of their careers at Newcastle, I would actually pick Harvey Barnes over Anthony Gordon. I think, look at the output of Harvey Barnes. I think he has been hard done by at times. At times he's let himself down. You know, this season he's been underwhelming in a lot of games, but there's also been spells where he's been in his floor, he's been scoring goals, he's been having some nice link-up play. And he's more technical than Anthony Gordon, isn't he? And I think, to be honest, one of the biggest failings with Eddie Howe and these two sets of players is not getting them in the same team together. I think they could have really complemented each other well because they are different. So it's a shame that we never got that going, even when Hijack was here. You know, people were calling it the BIG, I think it was, or something. But those three up front, I think that could have been quality, and it just was never tested, was it?
You got to think of what Barcelona have missed from watching them a little bit more than I would do normally this season. Obviously, one, Newcastle playing them, and two, you know, they're an interesting side. When they hit the ground absolutely running. The one thing that, Connor, bless him, he's just sent me a text. You imagine Rafinha, Gordon and Yamal up front for Barca. You know, the one attribute that Gordon has, and we've seen it at Newcastle, is that press from a goal kick or the goal short or something like that, which a lot of European clubs do well. They play three at the back. I think with those three pressing, all pace, all of a skill level, I think it could be very interesting for a lot of the opposition in La Liga next season. According to Keith Downey, this was at 8:05, he's reported back that Newcastle have tonight agreed the deal with the Catalan club at £69.3 million.
And is that 69 million the fixed fee?
That's the fixed fee according to it, yeah. Well, that's what it's got here. Have agreed
Yeah.
of 69.3 million, which is 80 million euros. So, but there's no mention of add-ons on that one.
I think what we do have to put a caveat in here. I believe Gordon's got a sell-on clause as well from Everton, so
Yeah,
they're
it's
going to get money from
15%,
this
isn't
as
it?
well, 15%. So, there's that to take into context. It's not, it is big, but it's not huge. But it is just something to remember in the background that we're getting a massive. I think the price is great that we're getting for him, but there is that little caveat that we're not going to get all that money.
I think it's like roughly around sort of 3-4 million or something when you look at it, when you break it down to Everton. It's 15% of the profits that we make, not the fee itself. So it's not as bad as I feared when I read that story. But obviously it will take a little chunk out, like you say. But I think that is a really good price. We bought him for 45 million. We've made a good profit on him. So like I say, I think his underwhelming season hasn't put a dent in that. Go on, Ian.
I'm just going to say, have you noticed this lad? Forgotten his name now. Is it Jazz something? Barcelona fan in the chat at the minute saying he's really excited. They're getting one of the most exciting wingers in the world to join Barcelona. So from outside the club, Gordon is one of the most exciting wingers in the club, and he's excited to get there. And if he is one of the most exciting wingers in the world, fancy judging him as that when you've got Lamine Yamal in your team. Then they've got him for quite a good price there at 80 million euros. So it's 69 is not a lot more than we paid for Elanga. But I'm not carping on about the value and the price. I think we've had him for long enough to amortize a lot of the fee that we spent. So there's a lot of profit in that. There's a lot of there's probably 2 fullbacks and a reserve centre half in that fee.
I was going to say that it's the players you can get out of that, isn't it? Now, I mean, if you go out and look, if you go to other markets, you probably could get 2 left wingers for the price we're selling Gordon for. And are either of them going to be as good? Probably not. But you've got the potential there if you're buying them young, and you also have that thing that sort of they want to play for Newcastle. I think that's the big thing. Any player we want to sign, want them to want to play for the club. It just seems daft to me if a player wants to go to try to keep hold of him, which was the whole thing last season with Hijack. We've learned from that, which is great. We're obviously learning as a club that if a player wants to go and you can get big money for them, get it done and get them gone as quickly as possible. Everybody moves on.
Travoy's just made a good point in the chat there. Actually, he said like 4.5 million to Everton actually covers our UEFA fine, which is probably going to be about right, isn't it? But isn't it weird though? Like apparently with the add-on clause, Newcastle have the lads are all putting it in the chat there. So thanks to the boys in the chat saying that it has been noted that there is add-ons on top of the 69.3 million as well. So that's good news. Plus there's a sell-on fee, which is obviously Newcastle has failed to do with the likes of Elliot Anderson. That's rumoured to go to Manchester City for £100 million. What a nice little chunk that would have been as a little bit of a pat on the back. But as I said, Newcastle have to be a little bit savvy with these sales going forward because they've got to, if they want to be this big boy come 2030, they've got to start acting like this big boy when they come to negotiations because that's something that they failed to do thus far.
Yeah. I think they are learning.
As well as that, they're selling them to an overseas team as well, isn't it? They're not selling them to a Premier League rival. So
Yeah.
I think that's clever business as well. I think this is a clever deal all the way around. To be perfectly honest, I don't see anything at all wrong with this deal.
Yeah, I agree.
Gordon will love it as well.
Yeah,
Gordon will love it as well, won't he?
Yeah.
I want to get the chat involved.
Is Win fueled up to drive Tonali and Livramento over to Manchester tomorrow morning? Because we might as well get it all in at the start.
Get them done.
Buy a sale sword. I want to go through these comments here and get the chat involved tonight. So I've got Daniel Bullock saying, "Hi Tim, I had to rub my eyes for a second. Thought you were wearing a Borussia Dortmund top. My bad. I haven't got a Dortmund top. I have got a few other tops, like classic football shirts. I've got the PSG top from '99. I think the Marseille top as well from '99, and a few others. There's some nice ones from back in the day, but I haven't got Dortmund. I've got Lou there saying, I'm glad Gordon signed for a team, like you have said, not in a Premier League. But my question is, again, I find it fascinating, is that how they can pay him 300 grand a
Farcical.
week, farcical, and continue to pay players huge wages with their fines. I mean, that is true. Everyone thought, how are Barca going to afford him? But they keep on finding money from somewhere. There's Laporta. And was it there? Cheers, was it? Typical Borky. Bog off. Okay.
Buy one, get one free.
Buy one, get one free. Yeah. Cheers, was it?
I want Elliot. I think Elliot Wilson could be a good signing now. If if you can get him on a reasonable wage, then yeah, good deal.
Who would be?
Who's Elliot Wilson?
Who's Elliot Wilson? I didn't want to say that in case I've.
No.
in case
Well, I mean,
was
obviously, I
exposed
think
as
you
not-
meant Elliot Anderson.
Sorry, I
News.
think he meant no. I think he meant what's the young lad called, man? There's the
Elliot Anderson.
Harry Wilson. Harry
Wilson. I think.
Well, he's on a
Wilson.
free. Yeah, he's on a free, isn't
Yeah,
he?
so I think that's what I'm
bug
saying.
off.
If you can get him on a decent wage, then it's cover, isn't it?
As long as that's who he really meant, and not Callum Wilson, then we're all right.
Callum Wilson.
Yeah,
there's
I'm
no
gonna
chance
say.
of him coming here.
No chance.
No, I
would
mean,
prefer
Wilson's
Murray
another.
Wilson to have him.
Where would you play Wilson? I mean, Wilson's a centre mid, isn't he? So, like you say, Borky, is he a squad player? And to me as well, I would look at what formation would you be playing. I'd want to play with the two. And have you got enough? Or if you're going to get another one, for me, I would get a number 6 to compete with the ones that are there. But I do like Wilson from what I've seen.
I think if you sign Wilson, you then class Ramsey as the left side midfielder, don't you?
Yeah.
You have that cover over that side, and you have Wilson in the middle. Would be what I would think.
So would you go into, because I've been saying last few weeks that right wing for me is a priority, and if we go into the season with Ramsey, like you say, and Harvey Barnes on the left, we'll see what happens with Barnes, with the Aston Villa link, but with those two, maybe Park as well, finding his way into the first team, would you be happy with those three, or would you look to replace Gordon? Gary?
For me, I think what you've got to start looking at is the areas of concern first, and I think for me, I do sometimes go like Wurzel Gummidge. I throw my Couch's head on and go, I've got to get my defence is my main unit, as daft as it looks. If I can't score goals, the pressure then comes on the defence, and we have leaked so many goals this season, even scoring goals. So for me, the priority has to be showing up that defence, extra cover a centre back, extra cover on the full backs, get some quality in that can progress the ball forward. So for me, if I was going to throw a chunk of money somewhere, it would be getting somebody in that right back situation that can actually play a little bit of football. You've got the perfect young lad on the other side that you can mirror in Lewis Hall. So if you can find somebody like that who's got an end product, because as much as everybody goes mad about Tino, he don't cross the ball very well. He don't defend at times very well. He progresses the ball well, but that is about it. So for me, you need an end product. So you talk about right winger. If you've got somebody who can have that Trippier-esque delivery into the box, as well as somebody who's got the ability to go and 1v1 at their fullback, I think it opens up different avenues. I mean, I do disagree with some of the chat when they say, you bring in players, there's going to be nobody coming in that's going to excite you. The play excites you. It's not the name that excites you. Boki hit the nail on the head. You've got to have players coming into this level now that are going to affect the players there. There's too much from that starting 11 to the 11 that's coming onto the field from the bench, and there's no change. There's no upward lift. Eddie Howe has to find something with the players that are coming in now that can change the game. And I think that is where fans get frustrated. If we don't turn the team over in the first 20, 25 minutes, the game seems to have gone. And I think that is something that we have got to remember. The game is over 90 minutes. And you've got to utilise that bench to come and make a change to the game. and that's something I haven't seen over the few seasons under Eddie Howe.
I think you're
Ian,
100%
On the
right
left wing,
there,
that
Gary,
could
and
that could
yeah,
be Park,
sorry.
couldn't it? Next season, that could be Park that would come on with the last 20 minutes to try and have something different. If it's Ramsey that's picking that position up but cutting in, I see Ramsey more as a 10. But if he's doing it from the left wing and coming in, and that's not working, then yeah, I think Park is a tricky dribbler, isn't he? That could get
Yeah.
around and put a few crosses over. So we could have a change that way. But I agree with you, Gary. I think we don't need to be replacing like from like. This isn't the second half substitution list after all. We need to look at what we're short in the squad. And I haven't heard anybody, other than me, flagging up that we lost Lascelles and Target out of this squad at Christmas. Because that was 2 out of the 25-man Premier League squad that we lost that we haven't replaced. So it's all well and good saying that you would replace Shah as well. But I mean, if you've already got Kraft and Lascelles to replace, that's a lot of centre halves to go and look for in one transfer window. That's why I hope Shah will sign a 1-year extension to his deal. So we're not trying to do it all in one go. But yeah, let's get this cash. Let's have a look. I mean, there's rumours straight away, isn't it? People saying that French goalie's signed. People saying that we're quite a long way down the track with the midfielder. I've forgotten the name of.
Kamara.
But
Is
he
it?
looks a really good
Yeah.
player. Yeah, if Gordon can be gone and those two are coming by end of play tomorrow, that'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
I think we're going to have to get used to this season. This transfer window. The start of it, we're not going to sign exciting players. Probably, we're not going to sign players that you're thinking, like forwards and stuff like this. I think, as both the guys below have said, we need to get the defence sorted out. We need the goalkeeping situation sorted out. So we definitely need a goalkeeper of some sorts. If only one, then, but in perfect world 2, we obviously need a right back and a left back. And as you have said, we need centre backs as well. So I think it's a different transfer window to last season in regards to the thing that we need to do this season is that this transfer window is build from the back. We need to have, a better back four, a better goalkeeper, and then we spent a lot of money on the players up front last season. So you maybe have to work with what you've got there. Maybe one attacking player, hopefully 2. But I really think this window is going to be about defensive players and getting the back four and the goalkeeper situation shored up, so that we've got that solid foundation to build from.
I've got a strange text today from a friend who's still involved in football. Aaron Wan-Bissaka questioned or spoke to West Ham about Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I was a little bit unsure of that one. I don't know whether it literally is just the wind-up, but that's what I've heard. So, like I said, listen, West Ham have got a couple of players that will have to go because of wages and everything else, and they have got release clauses for relegation. So, your talks of like Jared Bowen and things like that, who seems very happy to go and play at Newcastle. And that, to me, is a player I think that would cover a lot of your problems, because he's got the ability to go 1-on-1. He's also got the ability to find the space that can create that goal opportunity, or at least a shot on target. And he's half decent player that in the mentality. You talk about this leadership group and things like that. And the type of players you require can't all be 24 and under. You still have to look at some of the older heads. And like I say, Aaron Wan-Bissaka's 28, I believe. I think Jared Bowen's 28, 29. That type of age group for me, a couple in of that ilk, the rest of them potentially a bit younger, I think could bode well down that right-hand side, especially with those. You think the relationship that they've got at West Ham, they've already got that link together. Maybe it would help us. But like I say, I wasn't enamoured with the Aaron Wan-Bissaka news, to be fair. But I don't know whether that's just BS.
I'll come back on that. I've got a Before we move on, I've got a few super chats there, Ian. Just be a second. Cheers. So, Wazza, thank you very much. He's got a question. So, 2 strikers or 3 forwards? That is the question. So, we'll answer that in a second, Wazza. We've also got another super chat there from Paint Stripper saying, good to see you back, Gary.
Thank you, mate.
I concur, mate. Good to see you on the show again, mate. So, there's a few things we're
I haven't gone away, by the way. I've literally just got a business to run, and I find it very difficult to run a family, a business, and try and run this as well. So, you know what?
Back in the midweek
just to sit back and relax, mate, and get you do all the graft. It's nice.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I'm thinking, like, come on, Gary, you can just do this, do
Bless
that.
her, when I saw Christina not available, I thought, oh, I'll jump on board.
Cheers. Yeah, so...
well soon, Christina, for a bang in your head.
Yeah, I know, yeah, exactly. Yeah, just have a good rest, Christina. Look after yourself. And, hope you feel better soon. I'm sure you will. So, the question there, I'll come back to Wan-Bissaka, but Ian, if you answer this one, 2 strikers or 3 forwards? So, obviously, is it a case of, like, more wingers or is it strikers? Is that what you're saying, was it? But what do you make of that, Ian?
To me, that question is it forget 4-3-3? Is it 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2? And I would go 4-2-3-1 because if you've got Voltemada as the 10, that will turn up at 4-4-2 in a natural way that the game unfolds. So both is my answer. Is that too much on the fence?
Yeah, I think we'll have to go. If it's me, I would go for the 4-2-3-1. And I think if we start the season with a 4-3-3, it would feel a little bit underwhelming. I mean, I say that we might have signed a boatload of new players, and that excitement would have taken over any fuss around formations. So, yeah, that's the thing you've got to keep in mind. But I do hope there is that evolution that we started to see before the Fulham game. Wan-Bissaka. So, let's say Tino stays. We don't know what's going to happen, but...
Can we just stop on that, though, point, before we get on to Wan-Bissaka? Because you've just hit the nail on the head for me. Because if I'm honest with you, Tim, you know, I think we all realise that there's a lot of players that are coming to the end of the contracts in the summer. I think what Eddie Howe has to do in this situation now is nail down the players that he believes can take Newcastle forward next season. Don't forget, this is a progression. This shouldn't be, you know, winning the league next season. This should be a progression. Shouldn't be that hard, if I'm honest with you, from a season that has only been beaten in 77, 78 for poor results. So I think, you know, for me, the one thing that Eddie Howe has to do this season is nail down the players that he believes are coming to the end of the contract. I mean, he believes that Fabian Schär now is very close to staying, I've heard. So maybe that is another plus point for Newcastle. I'm not saying he's the answer, but the results since Fabian Schär has been out of the side, I think it just shows that he's got a value within the side. And like I say, it's nice to have a player that knows the club as good as Schär does. Like I said, we can't just get rid of everybody because there's no value in doing so. I think if you can get another 12 months out of somebody like Fabian Schär, if he's still got the ability to do so, they've got to nail down Tino Livramento if that's what he wants to do. For me, I think very much like Anthony Gordon, I don't know whether you'll get the same player back. I think his head's been turned by the Manchester City links and all this, and then the Arsenal links, and then all of a sudden he's been a bit crap. He's gone really off the boil. So is there an opportunity for that lad to get his feet back on the ground, get his mental state in order, and get him carrying on playing in a black and white shirt? Because if he ain't, then get him moved. Get him moved quickly.
Yeah, I would definitely move him if there is a vibe from him, like you say, that his head has been turned. I don't see any point in trying to persuade him to stay. And if we can get good money, which seemingly we could, then I would definitely bite the bullet, because a player with lesser supposed ability, but who wants to be at Newcastle, is going to be a lot more valuable to you in the team than a Livramento who has more ability on paper, but as we saw when he played at the end of the season, his head was not in it. And some of the goals we conceded, you know, you look at his role in that, and he was very lackadaisical, wasn't he? So, I mean, you never know.
Asleep.
Yeah, he was asleep, and he might come back.
he could be found out at the World Cup's the big thing with Tino.
That'd be a
If
good
he,
watch.
if he actually plays, I think you'll see his frailties. I don't think he's particularly great going forward. I don't think he's particularly great defending. If it was me, and I know this is a complete question that we had the other night, but for me, Hall's the miles better player out of the two of them, and I just don't get it at all. Why Hall isn't there, but Gordon is. But Tino is. You know, Tino's the worst fullback for me. As I say, it's personal choice, but
Tino was a fantastic left back when Hall got injured just after the Carabao Cup. Carabao Cup.
Mhm.
Tino was fantastic at left back.
And I believe that's the only reason
um,
he's gone for England. I think because his versatility, he plays and he covers both sides. He's not going to get in front of Reece James. I mean, you talk about the left back. I mean, there's a potential he could start left back, as you said, Ian.
Yeah, but I don't like the injuries that he's had. He was injury prone before we got him, and he's been out however many times it is. I would, and let's face it, it's right back, isn't it? Come on, he's not Hijack. It's not going to be that hard to replace him. I mean, Wan-Bissaka could probably replace 70 or 80% of him, and Everton are meant to be after him for 10 mil. So we'll get 60 in for Tino and spend 10 on him, and there's some more depth to the squad that we can afford to bring in.
Yeah. Super chat from Wazza. Again, really appreciated, mate. So, question: are wingers forwards when they score or provides? It goes back for me to the three up front or the 4-5-1, and I think you can trace this all the way back to Allardyce at Bolton, and Jose as well at Chelsea when he came in. But it was around that time, 2004-05, when it switched from a 4-4-2 that everyone was playing to this 4-3-3 and the inverted wingers. So from that point onwards, it's been hybrids. Do you know what I mean? Some are being classed as, goal scorers, but they're not a number nines. And slowly but surely, the number 9 kind of position has faded out, because you look at somebody like João Pedro for Chelsea, and he's not this Alan Shearer type that you would associate with the number 9 years ago. He's one who floats around, and he could easily play, drift around out wide, but he plays up top. So it's about, I think it's about the ability of the player, and what can they bring to the team, as opposed to where will they be playing and what formation works
would
best.
you guys see in this modern era, the likes of a Shearer or an Andy Cole or a Les Ferdinand getting the amount of goals that they used to get? I mean, that was based on wingers, wasn't it? It was based on players setting them up for goals. I mean, Shearer was a bit different because he was quite technical as well. But, realistically, would they score as many goals? As you say, is he ought to being a proper number 9 striker gone out the game completely now? I think we can all sit here and say, even the likes of Hijack isn't a proper number 9. He's been the best scorer we've had, but is he a proper number 9?
You think Mateta is? I think Mateta is he not?
Yeah. I think the problem is
different goals.
Yeah, the problem today for me is the game's changed massively. When you're looking at, a lot of the older days footballers, the Shearers, were target men. So the delivery, your wingers and everything else, they were specifically told stay within the 6-yard box area and look at the parallel lines and compete. Today, what they're expecting forwards to do is get involved. They are part of the build-up, they're part of the press, and they're expecting to finish as well. So, again, the game's evolving all the time to say you are a specific striker or a winger, and that's why I think Anthony Gordon probably fits that question mark. Where does he play? Where's his best role? I think he's a hybrid. I think he's one of them players that suits the modern game a lot more than saying, well, you're a striker or you're a winger. I think he's one of these build-up type of players that's got the pace. He does like to go at you one-on-one. And I think you'll see a different player in Barcelona.
Yeah. And got a comment
here. Do you think they're just labels, though, Tim? Do you don't think they're just labels? Forward, winger.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think we get too hung up on it
Elliot
sometimes.
Anderson are halfbacks.
Yeah.
Right half and left half.
Exactly.
I mean,
you go back there, though.
They would be brilliant back in the 70s as a right half and a left half, but they're not.
Yeah.
That's not what they do. Obviously, they're
But
midfielders.
it's a bit like Ian when people talk about numbers. When they say number 6, I always think as number 6 as being a centre back. From my era, number 6
Number
was
5,
always,
yeah.
and it was a number 4 in midfield. Number 4 was the one
It
who
was.
played the defensive midfield role. So I think you're right. I think it's sort of there's things put on players, but it's because of your historic view of the game. Number 9 is naturally a striker, but we've had number 9s who weren't really strikers. It's a saying really, or sort of a mindset that you've got as a fan.
Convenience. It's a convenience, isn't it? Saying
exactly.
number 6. Our number 6 has been number 8 and number 39 this season.
Yeah,
Apart from when
exactly.
number 41 picked it up when number 8 was injured. So it's just so shorthand to know what sort of position on the pitch you're kind of talking about.
It sounds more like you're in a deli, mate, rather than
I was going to say
number 41, please.
Chinese restaurant.
My partner's just heard you then. She's ordering a Chinese based on their numbers.
Exactly.
There you go. It'll be a good one.
Absolutely.
Ginger says, following up what you're saying there, wrong. 4-3-3 has been around for years, even 4-2-3-1. Arsenal started it with Henry in the late 90s, early 2000s. Barca have played with wide forwards since Ronaldinho days. But I know what you're saying, Ginger, but this is what I mean in regards to, I think we get too hung up sometimes on these labels because, you say 4-2-3-1, essentially, it's 4-2-3-1, but back then, nobody said that. And, Match of the Day would line them up as 4-4-2. And it's about, like I said before, the profile of the player. Henry's profile was that, yes, he was a striker and he was starting up front, but as you say, he wanted to drift out wide. And Perez on the left drifted inside so they could swap around and you had that movement, which was brilliant. I mean, they were superb to watch, Arsenal back then. So to me, I think it'd be simpler these days, really, if we just kind of went back to that and said, it's 4-4-2, but then we discuss the talents of the individual players that then tells you what the side will actually look like, not what they're going to be like on paper.
Let's go.
Let's be slightly honest, though. There's no team really plays 4-3-3. It's a fallacy. There's no team really plays 4-3-2-1. There's no.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different setups at different points of the game. So I think a lot of this is sort of mute points in regards to nobody really plays a set formation nowadays. It's just not done, and I don't think it's ever really been done. I think it's always been a mindset, but I don't think there's ever been a time in history when football's been rigid. Used to stay there up front. That looked a bit wrong. You four across the midfield, stay there.
I was going to stand up for a minute then. I was like,
It's always been a bit interchangeable, but it's a bit of a strange thing to talk about. Yeah.
Go right back to when you just had one substitute. The formation was much more rigid there. You needed 2 centre backs. You needed a full back on each side. You needed some midfielders that hung back to help cover things, and some midfielders who could open it up for the centre forwards. Yeah. Probably a winger or two. But the massive change came when the Dutch side in the 70s.
Yeah, 71, 72, wasn't it?
Lined them up, and they played wherever the hell the ball took them. Total football, they called it. And they didn't really have fixed positions. Cruyff was a fabulous left winger, but he was brilliant in central midfield, and he was excellent in the box as well, because they just shuffled everything around. And I think
that's when the pressing game come on, though.
The perspective,
Ian, wasn't it? Yeah.
It opened up the perspective that there were different ways of skinning a cat, as it was.
That Dutch side was phenomenal back in the early 70s.
And I think we've we sort of have an idea, but you just see how we'll line up to try and play one way and find out that, I think Fulham lined up to play one way, then found out we had 3 at the back on Sunday, and they had to shift completely where they were playing. It was the same players that moved around to try and adjust to how the opposition's lined up.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, just before I go, it was a super chat there. I think it kind of shows that, Pep didn't invent anything particularly new. I think, he brought it back to the table and maybe refined it, but this sort of football was around, wasn't it? Back with Ajax and teams in the 70s and 80s, and there's the saying, there's nothing new under the sun. And I think these things come and go, don't they? It takes time over long stretches, but things come and go, and we're seeing the tiki-taka now because Pep has been brilliant with it at Barcelona first and foremost. But
You've
it's
still got to have the players with the ability to do it, mate.
Exactly.
I went and trained with Feyenoord back in the 90s. Just literally did 3 weeks out there, and they were using a tennis ball. And when I was asking the coach about how and why, he was, well, if you can control a tennis ball, which is small, the chances of you controlling a bigger ball is a lot better. And it's little philosophies like that where you think, you know what, it's simple when you put it in simple terms, isn't it? Do you not think the game has just got complicated?
But one day against this sort of formation, Gary, somebody's going to go with the long ball, with the proper striker up front, and it'll work. It
worked against us a lot of the times, mate, isn't it?
Yeah. But somebody's going to do that. I mean, there was a podcast on the other day talking about Brian Clough, and it was one of his I can't remember the name of the guys, but it was one of his centre backs, and he says basically, if you ever pass the ball and the other centre back plays it, you dropped, and I'll never play you again. He says as soon as you get the ball, drop it over the top, and I want people running onto it, and that type of football will come back. There'll be a time when you think to yourself, hang on, that's the right thing to do, sort of thing. And against this sort of formation, I think it could work.
Honestly, I think it would.
It's getting yourself forward, getting yourself into that sort of mindset again.
Yeah, it's a manager who's willing to kind of be the one to step forward and say, I'm going to take the supposed risk and I'm going to break the mold. Because I agree, while everyone has been, and I know I've bored people to death probably with this, but when everyone has been obsessed with Pep's tiki-taka and trying to do it, like you say, Gary, without the players at their disposal, where Pep does have those players, it becomes a much of a muchness. And I think some principles of play have went out the game because this style of play has been intensified so much. A lot of common sense principles are not adhered to. And I think, to your point, Borgie, if a manager said, you know what, we're going to be more direct, we're going to play with two strikers, and both strikers might be a bit physical as well, and we are going to ask questions physically of the opposition in that way, and technically as well, because defenders haven't had it as easy as they've got it now, in my opinion. And I look at players back in the 2000s and 90s, and I think a lot of those players, I think they were better because they had to be better technically, because they had to move the ball forwards, and those demands were placed on them to do so. They couldn't just do it sideways all the time. And physically, they were challenged. The centre-backs had brute centre-forwards backing into them, who also, like you say, like Alan Shearer, technically was superb. And you ask Marcel Desailly what he thought Alan Shearer and how difficult he was to mark. Tells you everything. But yes, a few super chats there before I get out of hands. A few coming in. Cheers, Wazza. Flipping heck, it's bingo lingo. Clickety click. Cheers, mate. It is. We're going to be ordering Chinese left, right, and centre. Yep. And another one. Yes, the ability to mix it up is defo a cry out. Yeah.
I've ordered. The Chinese has ordered. We've ordered number 69 for you, mate.
Was it said new balls please before in the chat?
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about your long ball game from the 80s and before is already coming, isn't it? I mean, long throws are back big time.
Yeah.
Look at the goalkeeper who can take the ball down and play a 60-yard ball out to the edge of the box. Look at that goal West Ham scored against us. One bounce, wallop. That was direct. What a good goal to watch as well, though.
It was excellent.
I think there's a bit of there's a bit of snobbery about it all, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, I think everybody tries to get that perfect goal in, don't they? You know, walk it into the 6-yard box, create that perfect goal. Everybody wants that, to name it, if you like. And the ability to shoot now has gone out of the game. Yeah. Eddie Howe said that himself. If you haven't got the confidence, he tells them not to shoot. And I think that's sad. because there's always an opportunity. Even if it's going wide, it gets deflected and it just wrong foot to the keeper. We've seen it so often when you're firing through a crowded box, mate.
Do you know what you see though as well? I mean,
agree.
remember the cup final with it was Tino on the left when he was playing on the left, and he went run down the line and put a cross in,
Yeah.
and a striker scores from it. How often do you see that nowadays? How often do you see a striker ball going into the box and them, heading? I don't know why I had to do the action, but them heading it into the goal. You know what? That's something that's gone from the game. Why not get the wing, get the fullbacks bombing down the wings and getting crosses into the box?
Exactly, and this is what I mean. It's like a principle.
Souness.
Like you can just very quickly, you can have all the ideas in the world around tactics, but that basic principle of when the ball is laid off to the fullback and he puts it in first time, the striker is going to have a much better chance of getting in on the end of it, and the defender is going to find it a lot more difficult to defend. That will never go away. So you can have whatever you want around the game, but if you're ignoring that, then you are hampering yourself. And you say, BARCA, I've seen it a million times where the winger or fullback takes a touch and then passes sideways, and then they put a cross in from a straight angle, and it's pointless. So I do find it really frustrating, and I do wish teams would go back to it, because I think the likes of Shearer and Ferdinand
as
wouldn't
well,
score.
Tim, is part of the point of that is as well, Tim. You've got the wrong-footed player playing on the wing. You need a left foot. To me, just go back to bloody basics. Put a left-footed player on the left wing, and a right-footed player on the right wing. And then get the crosses in.
Yeah.
Fair enough. If the game's not going right, swap them across, and then they can cut in and try to strike the ball. But we haven't got a left-footed proper winger, and that's what really, really frustrates us.
Yeah, I've just had just something going back to the Anthony Gordon, because that's where we were at the start. And this is from Barca Universal. This is on Twitter or X, as they call it now. Anthony Gordon is the 4th worst finisher among Premier League wingers this season. And he's got all of the stats in front. I'll send it you, Tim. Maybe you can throw it up on the screen, mate.
Yeah, cheers. And that flies in the face of, he's scored, 17 goals, and he's put up there to be this, goal scoring machine this season. And like we've said, I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I think it's a little bit deceptive when you look at it on paper. And, he probably will improve with Barcelona. You would have thought so around players like that. But I do think it's a really good deal for Newcastle. And we've got money to spend now.
Do you think Barca watched him in the lesser games we've played this season when he's played? Or do you think that the coach... Because if you watch him in the big games, you would come out and you'd go, oh, he's a great player. You watch him against Burnley or bloody, Wolves away, you'd think, what the hell's he doing? So do they watch him a lot, or do they watch him in the big games? And because, as I say, if you watch him in the big games, you'd sign him straight away.
I think the Champions League is where Barca come unstuck, and they need to unpick the locks in those certain competitions. I think their B side could probably win the La Liga, apart from a couple of sides that they face. I mean, it's the competition in La Liga isn't there, but competition in Champions League is there. They've seen his stats in Champions League, and you're absolutely spot on. Any team that are vying for the big titles want players that play in big competitions. Anthony Gordon does that.
Yeah. And I'll bring up the stats that you mentioned there in a moment about Anthony Gordon. And I've got a question.
Do the super chat there?
Yeah. Do you want to bring that up, Borty? Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. Can progress and long ball like a quarterback. He's a great player, sure. There's absolutely no doubt. So if he stays on for a season, I don't think anybody would have a doubt about that. The one slight worry for me was that we're talking about him having a 2 or 3 year deal. There's no chance he should be doing that. It should be a 1 year with maybe the potential of a second year if both parties agree.
I think that's what it'll be.
Maybe a second year if he's played 30 games in the season. A sort of a conditional second year if we've used him a lot. But I mean, when he hurt his leg, his first choice centre half. Chow only got in because Shah got injured. So I don't think there's any. I mean, somebody's had a go at me in the chat here for suggesting that I'm settling for being an also ran by wanting to give Shah an extra year because he's not the future. I know he's not the future. I wanted to be the present. I only want him to have a year extra. That's the present. And we've got Burn to replace next year as well, remember. So, there's still 2 more to get in the next summer. Because I think Burn and Shah will be off next summer.
This has just popped in my head.
Just timing, innit?
But is Chow the player that's played, is an outfield player, not a goalkeeper? Is Chow the player that's played the most games for Newcastle in a season?
Yeah.
So I can't think of many more that would have played more than him.
I think
Apart from Bruno.
I saw them. Was it yesterday that somebody Win put these up? Chow played 50 games. I think it was 4,200 minutes. Tonali had played 4,008 minutes, and he was second on the list. So Chow's played 3 full games more than anybody else in that.
More than anybody else, yeah.
I
So
mean,
I said there's only ever Bruno.
Only
that
one who hadn't
matches
been
that,
injured.
Yeah.
Sorry?
If Bruno wasn't injured, so I said there's only ever Bruno that matches those type of stats when you think of continuity with time on the pitch. I mean, obviously this season being different with his injury, with his hamstring, but usually it's Bruno who gets those type of minutes. And Bauke had said from the start, he needed a rest. And I think there was games that we obviously saw Malik Cheb. He made some amazing tackles, but he was also out of place a lot of the time as well. So again, fatigue, mental fatigue.
I was at the Leeds 4-3, Gary, where Chow made 1 or 2 horrendous errors. It was so bad in the first half that Eddie took him off at half time.
Half time, yeah, exactly.
But that was all he needed because he was back there on the following weekend playing really well. I mean, people say he's got a rick in him. It's a bit harsh when he's made 5 or 6 bad mistakes, but he's played 50-odd games for us. One dodgy mistake every 10 games. I mean, I've seen Shah do that as well.
I think it is harsh when people say that. He has made some ricks here and there, but I do think he's been a good signing, and I think you've got to class it as success for me. And next season, him and Botman, hopefully, will have that understanding, and Botman can prove himself again, because I think he probably needs to over a stretch in the season, as opposed to just groups of games here and there. But yeah, I think Chow has been a success, no doubt about it in my mind. Just quickly, Gary, would you give Fabian Schär a new deal?
Again, this is me personally. Yes, I would, because there's no value in him leaving. So if you've got a player that can come on and fill the void, and say, you know what you're going to get with Fabian Schär. He's got the ability to go and score 20 yarders. Like you say, he's got the long diagonals. So for me, when you look at positives versus the cons, pros v cons, is there a lot more pros on the table than he gives you than cons? Well, I would say there is. He does go awry a couple of, at times. There has moments of lapse of concentration. And again, kind of throwing this, the Gazette reporting, it's a 1-year deal for Fabian Schär that's on the table, and it looks like the talks are in advanced stages. So obviously that, again, he wanted longer. I think Newcastle were very cute in only offering the again, I thought maybe a year plus a year given by the club would have ticked that box and got him here, because I mean we know his interest is back home. He's still involved regarding the board in his home club, in his hometown. So I think for me, yes, because there's no value in getting rid of him. It's another player that you've got to bring in, and for the money that you've got in the coffers, what type of player can you bring in? It's probably a lesser ability player that you have to nurture for the first 6 to 12 months. So what do you get out of that? So for me, you've got players, like I said, there's a couple of junior players in the under-21s that I think need a little bit of a close look at. I think if they can get the likes of Heffernan, we're all talking about a natural 6. Everybody just take a moment and go and have a look at Heffernan in his last couple of games. The way he's like the metronome. He literally controls the tempo of the game, and he's an Elliot Anderson-esque type of player where he follows play and he wants to be available with the ball all the time. So it's not a case of just passing it 20 yards and stopping. He actually creates that opportunity. If they need to give it him back, I'll have it back. So, there is players around us that you can give time to if you keep Shaw on board to do another 12 months nurturing. And that's what we've got to start looking at. Not the cost that's out there that we can't afford. Let's see what we can bring in. If they're good enough, then give them the opportunity to prove it. At this present moment in time, Finneran, not Effernan. It's Finneran, I should have said. Absolutely amazing talent, I think he's got.
I think I haven't seen him, but I think I know who you mean. I think I remember when we signed him, and there was a lot of talk then. I think he was 16 when we signed him, and it was like, we've got a good one here. So, interesting to hear about that. I've got some stats up here about Mr. Anthony Gordon that you're referring to, Gary. And I'll zoom in here. There's quite a lot going on here. But the interesting thing, to try and simplify it, is this pitch view. Now, let me zoom in a bit more. So, here, you can see... Can you see that okay?
I can.
Yeah. So pitch view, obviously there's the goal there. And the X's are for when a shot has been blocked that Anthony Gordon has took on goal. And the zeros there are for off target. And most of the shots, 38% of them, as it states there, were off target. You look at some of those circles there, the zeros, if you want to call them that. Look how close they are. And look, so you just imagine they are off target. I mean, I'll get the super chat in a second, 2 moments there. But I think this is interesting, like you said, to kind of gauge Anthony Gordon's accuracy. Super chat there from Wazza. Cheers, mate. Chow and Botman, great, but two-dimensional Shaw 3. I think Shaw has been quality for us, and I would keep him for another year, providing there's a youngster banging on the door as well to be involved. But I just think Shaw, we don't know what he's going to be like after the injury, and I just think that Chow and Botman's mobility gives you a bit more. But Shaw's a good option to come in for me. But yeah, lads, this view here of Anthony Gordon, Ian, what do you make of this? Can you read it, and does that tell you anything about Gordon's shooting accuracy?
Hard without seeing what that compares to somebody else. I mean, there's a lot of shots there from 5 yards out that he's missed the target with. I don't mind all of those ones where he's cut in from the left and had it blocked. That's good defending. He's been saved. Well, it's probably a good save. Without knowing what the alternative is for what Harvey Barnes is like, for example, I can't really comment on that. But there are quite a few there, aren't there? There's 3 in the 6-yard box where he's missed the target.
Yeah.
And another 3 right in the centre of the goal from just outside the 6-yard box where he's missed the target. You'd expect it at that level to make the save. I would have said.
Gary?
I mean, he's getting in those positions, isn't he? He's had a decent lot of shots.
True.
If you had whizzers there, there'd only be about 3.
I think we all look at this as being his worst season for Newcastle, full season, and I think these figures actually dominate that. This is from StatsBomb. It's a site that I visit myself. It's very accurate when it comes to the stats, if you like. And like I say, the one thing, if you look from just above the pitch view there, you can see, where he tries to always aim central to the goalkeeper's left, who's facing you. His right hand side he seems to favour. And you can see by the percentages when he tucks it in to that other side, his percentages, he's probably got the highest average. But it's the amount of misses and the how wide they are from the target that you start questioning. Has he got the striker's ability? Has he got that mentality, that confidence in front of goal, to actually do the job. And I think this probably tells you otherwise. But again, is this just this season where his mindset just hasn't been on it? And when you're playing half-hearted, maybe you're not putting all of your efforts into the game. There's so many different, like Ian said, unless you're happy to compare it with somebody else, the likes of Harvey Barnes, say, and see what his is like. Maybe that is the only way you're going to get an accurate. But for me, the poorest thing I've seen this season is the forward line. We've just had very little to look at on the conversion rate across all areas, if I'm honest with you, in them front three. And it's only slightly got better towards the end of the season.
Sorry to interrupt, but what's the symbol for the standing right on the 6-yard line and swinging your foot and completely missing the ball?
Air shots, yeah, there isn't one.
3 or 4 of them, weren't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
3 or 4 of them against bloody Barcelona, and then was there one against Liverpool as well?
To be fair to the lad, though, as well, we'll look at these sort of things, but again, you know me, I don't look at stats or anything like that sort of thing, or these little dots or things on pages. I think if you look at him through the season, you've got to say he is a good footballer. He scores your goals, he gets into the positions, he is a good player. As I say, there's some reason in the back of your head that you don't like him as such, but he is a really, really good footballer, and we will miss him. We will, there'll be times when we'll look back and say, look, he's a great player, He's went on to Barcelona and done brilliant things. But I just think, trying to find faults with him is a little bit unfair, because he's been a great player for us over the seasons, If you look at the Carabao Cup, fair enough, he didn't play in the final, but he got to the final. He has been a brilliant player for us. So I think we say thank you to him. We'll get the money in. He gets the move that he wants, and everybody wins.
Yeah, I agree. And was it there?
I'm not
saying it's while wasting time on a player who's moved on. And appreciate your super chat, was as always. And I would just say it does just kind of highlight, maybe though it's an opportunity for us to get somebody in who is a bit more technical perhaps and can finish chances and use the money to invest into the squad. But I agree, Borky, in that he's had rubbish games, that's for sure. But he's not a rubbish player per se, certainly. Ian?
I was going to say, I'm not as much of a fanboy as Wynne is, but I'm not far behind him. I mean, even this season, right through to the end of the Champions League campaign, if Gordon was playing, even if he'd been quiet, when he's gone off, I'm thinking, that was taking a massive part of our potential to score away. Even if he'd had a quiet game, I wanted him to stay on. If he was on the bench, I wanted him to be brought on earlier than how would probably be bringing him on. So, I mean, I think even without hitting the heights that he did 2 years ago, he was still a major part of our offensive arsenal that we had.
I think as well,
when we talk, he stopped getting picked.
Yeah, when we talk about the likes of Robert and Ginola and all that, we'll look back with rose-tinted glasses. They had really poor games for us. A lot of the games they were out of completely. They never touched the bloody ball. So it is a winger's life in that you're never going to be consistent. There's never been a fully consistent winger. I mean, you could probably say Ryan Giggs a little bit maybe, but even he had poor games. But if you look at just taking it on Newcastle United, as I said, I think the best two wingers we would talk about would be Ginola and Robert. And neither of them were consistently good on that left-hand side. So, you
moved on quicker though, Borky, didn't it?
Sorry?
They didn't hang around. They didn't hit their heights and then hang around for a season and a half being nowhere near as good as they used to be for us to go off them.
No. Yeah.
Ginola had gone at the end of his second season. So he just left us with the
memories,
the half a dozen fantastic goals that he scored and all the crosses that he put in. So he maintained his legend status.
But I think you've just hit the nail on the head there, Ian. How many goals did actually Ginola score for us? Well, remember the great one against Man U and all that stuff like that. And Robert was a
Or the
bit
one
different because
against
Robert,
the Hungarians.
yeah, but Robert was a
Where he
little bit
chipped it over
different
him.
because he did score, I think, a few more goals, but
Scored more.
I don't think either of them would be seen as what's the word? Prolific
Prolific.
in regards to the scoring.
I think Robert was, to be fair,
I think-
at full winger. I think Robert probably was. I mean, maybe not the heights of you see these days. For these wide forwards, if you like. But I think Robert. I can think back to games where literally, to what you're saying, Borg, he was standing on the halfway line, like hands in metaphorical pockets, watching us defend while we're hanging on for dear life. So, like you say, there's no doubt Robert had games like that, but I think his stats and his end product was consistent over 4 years, and he scored, not only scored goals, but obviously, as we know, scored amazing goals for us.
This is going off point a little bit, Tim, but in regards to that, but does that not prove a little bit of a difference between this football we're playing now and the football we played then? You're quite right. Ginola and Robert would be halfway up the pitch while we were defending. Now, if you look, we always have 11 players behind the ball whenever we're getting attacked with. So if we can, we'll have every player behind the ball.
It's robotic.
Should teams go back to having a few players up front because the ball can be pinged forward and you can get onto it?
Yeah.
That.
If you've got three standing up there, you were asking a question to say, are you gonna bomb on, or is the opposition gonna bomb on and leave us with three up there? Or are you going to stay back and defend? I mean, if they do that, then we maybe push them back. So it's interesting, isn't it? I would like to see a manager, like I say, plant the flag and do that. Maybe Salah, to an extent, at Liverpool has done that over the years, where he does stay up there. And the other striker that had, not Firmino, it was Mane on the other side. Maybe that was the closest we've seen, perhaps, under Klopp. But Gary, you're going to say something?
Literally, just to confirm the Gordon sale, Lee Ryder's just confirmed that Ross Wilson led the sale for Gordon, with Piff signing off the deal. So that's just to confirm it. I wanted just to add on to what you guys were saying. Newcastle, under Eddie Howe, has often spoke regarding he likes the height. Newcastle are a big unit, confirmed by the likes of Dan Burns, 6'7". Sven Botman, 6'4". Hijack was 6'4". Joe Linton, I think he's around about the 6'3". And obviously you've got Voltemada at 6'7" as well, haven't you? So he wanted that unit to demand a presence in both areas. That was the reasons he gave for the droppings of the likes of Hall against the likes of Arsenal. He wanted to go with height. And yet Newcastle come out 5th best at set pieces in the Premier League against lesser teams that are in front of us, and to me that if you simplify that just tells you we haven't had the ability, the tactical ability within the team, whether that you look at as an individual, because obviously it's an individual that puts it in the right areas, to actually utilize your strength, if you like. So for me, that it's like throwing something into the equation, but not utilising your strength. So, like I said, it's no good Eddie Howe looking at a unit and saying, right, from our set pieces, this is what I want you to do, unless the person taking the set piece has the ability to hit the markers. And that is what I'm saying. We've got to start looking at set piece takers, not names, not people who's just willing to go and do it. There's got to be somebody on that field of play. And this is what annoys me when you've got the likes of Lewis Hall, who I believe on that left-hand side should be able to ping in a decent cross, being naturally left-footed, taking it away from the keeper towards or between no man's heath, as I call it, the 12-yard line and the 6-yard box, for the likes of these centre halves to go and attack the ball. We end up then shaping the ball towards the keeper, who 90% of the time has come and claimed crosses of the ball. And it's basics, it's basic units, if you like, of what you want to see teams doing. And like obviously this season, Arsenal have been phenomenal at doing that, and they've come out top of the league. And I mean, Leeds United, believe it or not, are in front of us. Manchester United, Brentford, are in front of us, and then you've got Newcastle coming in a very steady fifth, if you like. So it just proves, when you look at what the gaffer's asking you to do, he wants height. You've got to utilise it. It's okay as a defensive unit, but you've also got to capitalise on what you've got strength-wise in the offensive third.
Yeah. Quickly, Ian.
I've just done some research, Tim.
Yep.
Let me tell you it before I forget it all. Anthony Gordon scored 39 goals for Newcastle, which is one more than Ginola and Robert combined. Robert 32, David Ginola scored 6 times for Newcastle. 6. They were all good in spine.
Yeah, they were all screamers, weren't they?
Yeah, but then if they took penalties, I know that sounds harsh on Gordon, and it sounds a bit lazy because, I don't want to take it away totally from him, but if Robert had the penalties, if Alan Shearer wasn't there, then you do wonder about that, don't you? But no, it's a good tally. It's a good tally from Gordon. And let's see what he does at Barca. Got a super chat there from Wazza. Who are we? Buying man, how we get on with it, guys. So you've spoken, Wazza, you've paid your dosh, so I will do exactly that. So we are in talks apparently with the Rennes goalkeeper. I'm going to butcher his name. Is it Ewan Jowan?
Yeah, something like that, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So it's the Rennes keeper. We're close apparently to signing him because Mark Douglas in the I paper has stated specifically that we are close to agreeing a deal with the club in France, and we are also in talks with Monaco over a move for Lamine Camara. Has anybody seen these two players play a decent amount of minutes, and if so, what do you think?
Kamara's a very
I've
good
seen
player.
that Liverpool are in for this Kamara lad as well.
Yeah,
And if we can get him in for the Liverpool, I think we've scored. Because I've seen various people reporting that he's a very exciting young talent. But no, I haven't got time to sit and look through all of the French League highlights. Tim.
No,
I
I must
suppose
admit,
we
the
haven't
goalkeeper.
found the hours to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
do have a little bit
goalkeeper
of a
that you
transfer
butchered, I haven't
exclusive.
got a clue.
I do think there's a little bit of an exclusive that we're trying to get Wazza on the panel next season.
Yeah, exactly.
So he would be the biggest transfer, I think, you getting
Biggest
on here,
group.
mate.
Yep.
Yeah, Matt Targett, obviously, again, you talk about the likes of Matt Targett. He's got a chance of apparently going to Derby County. The fall from grace, eh? Listen, I have no idea about the lad from Rennes, if I'm honest with you. But Lamine Camara, I think he, like you said, if the bigger teams are also looking at him, there's a player there. And again, it's going to be more the fact of the finances, isn't it, for us? If the likes of Liverpool will sit him on the bench and give him 250,000 a week, Newcastle will play every game but can only give him 100 grand a week. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
That's the situation where we got Bruno out of, isn't it? Where a lot of the big teams were humming and hawing for a while, and we said, no, we'll have you. We want to build a team around you. And he came.
Yeah.
What do you think about the two Chelsea lads that I heard who were sniffing around? Delap and is it Achumpong?
Please don't sign the lap.
No,
Delap.
I
I don't want Delap. I see he's got potential, obviously, with what he did at Ipswich. There's a player in there somewhere, but to me, his confidence is on the floor. He looks very raw as well. And I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'd prefer Nicholas Jackson. I think he is more developed. I think he's more of a bullish number 9. We were speaking before about number 9s. I think he is a bit more of that mould. And him ahead of Voltemada, I think, would be very interesting. Gary, thoughts?
Like I said, I like Lamine Camara. I think he's very good. But when you're looking at, again, strikers, we talk about left-hand side. I'd like to have had a look at Wissa on the left-hand side. Somewhere he's played for Brentford. He plays, obviously, for his national team down that left-hand side as well. Maybe there's a little chink that we look at now and say, listen, we've got Wissa, we've got Harvey Barnes. Let's have a look at them in pre-season before we take a punt on anything else. I know the World Cup and it's going to hamper that, but there's, like I said, what Eddie Howe needs to do now before we look at the bigger picture, mate. Sorry about keep going over this. He's got to find the team within and say, are you staying? Are you going to develop, or do we move you on? You know, there's a lot of talk massively when you look at positions. You know, Vlahovic is another one that everybody seems to be vying. Again, that was 13 hours ago that he appeared back on the scene. Somebody that we looked at in January. Again, his name's being posted and going everywhere for the forward roles. So there's players out there. I mean, you've just said, you know, you look at. Sorry, he's gone out of my head. Who would you just said?
Jackson.
From Chelsea. Jackson. Nicholas Jackson. Again, he's one of those players that, as you saw at Chelsea, if the game is going his way, he works. If the game isn't going his way, I saw him against Newcastle when he threw his elbow into Shaw's face. You know, oh sorry, it was Botman's face, wasn't it? You lose it. He's very headstrong, Nicholas Jackson. I'd like somebody that maybe not is, I say fully developed, because you need a striker, you need a natural striker. But I want somebody who's got the hunger. Somebody who's, if they take a shot and they miss, get back on their feet and goes again. I don't want people who sulk because they've missed an opportunity. You know, Azal Zulu is a player.
You mean Darwin Núñez, Gary? You mean Darwin Núñez?
Even Darwin Núñez, yeah, exactly. There's you know, if you want to go cheap, you can go down those roads if you like and go and get the freebies. You know, Vlahovic is going to come at a price. We know, you know, there's talk about Solly March coming from Brighton, Somerville from West Ham. There's loads of players. Matias Fernandez. These are all, you know, in that forward line, if you like. But I quite like that I can never say his name, Ezal Zuli as a type of player. But because of he's coming from nowhere, but he's got the hunger to go for it. So, like I said, I think there's players out there. They don't have to be players that we all know.
Yeah, I'll come back to you on that, Gary. In the meantime, we've got a super chat there from Wazza. You can't afford me, Borky. I'm donating royalty, bud. Now we'll sort something out. Well,
Chris, I believe it's his birthday. I mean, you've also got to think of his birthday. I think it's his 70th birthday today. Happy birthday, Wazza.
And you're all royalty on this channel, mate. You know, I can't think what prince or former prince you would be.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. What does this begin with there, Borky? Where are you going with that?
No, I'm not saying anything else. I just said that.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. Yeah, so to go back to the players there, I mean, I think Núñez, you mentioned there, you know, we're talking about strikers. So you're saying, Ian, that you would take Núñez, yeah?
Well, I think he's got a great record at St James's Park for a start. But yeah, I think he's somebody who just picks himself up and gets on with it again, doesn't he? And he's got a great shot on him when he hits it right. I know he's got a reputation for missing stuff, but you know, that's what you want. You want to be in those positions to take those chances, to be in there to have the shot. And he scores plenty of goals as well as missing a few.
Got a comment here from Daniel Bullock there. Tim question, would you take Yildiz, young left winger, talent for Juve, Pulisic for right wing, play Tonali and Joe Linton as CDMs and push Bruno G to the 10 role behind Voltemada at striker? I think for me, I want to play Voltemada behind another striker, and it's interesting having Bruno further up. I think that's the main thing for me with Bruno when he's in the team. I want him to have the license to be creative, which he has been this season a lot of the time. I don't want to detract from his creativity. So I wouldn't necessarily be averse to having Bruno high up in the 10. And obviously he's less ground to cover. He is getting a year older now, isn't he? So that would be something to think about. But with Voltemada, if he is in the team, yeah, I know it's a bit cliched and not many people like this, but I want to see a bit more pace up there. Hence why I mentioned Jackson, somebody of that mould who can run in behind, but also has the strength to hold off defenders as well. And they're not easy to come by. That's why obviously the cost the big bucks, but that's my idea. And I think Pulisic, I thought he looked really good at times when I'd seen him in the past. And for Chelsea, he was hit and miss, wasn't he? But he looked, if that's the same one I'm thinking of, he looked really talented, I thought, at times. But I don't know what he's up to these days. And I think from memory, he looked better coming in on his right foot than he did playing on the right. But do you lads have any thoughts on that? And Kev, welcome to the show, mate. What do you think about that?
What, Pulisic?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a massive fan personally, but I haven't seen much of him recently. He could have improved loads since I was watching him regularly in the Premier League. But look, we're going to need a winger by the looks of it. Gordon looks like he's going, and there's talk of Barnes going to Villa. That's picking up massively in literally the last half an hour as I was driving here. So, yeah, it looks like we're going to be targeting at least 2 or 3 wingers. Would I take Pulisic? Probably. He seems like the type of profile who Eddie Howe would get the best out of, I guess, in terms of he's a hard worker. Looks like he could have ability in the right environment, could thrive, and I think that's the type of players we probably should be looking at. I think we shopped out of our market last summer and got turned down by almost everybody. So them type of players for me sounds a bit more promising, where they see Newcastle as a bit of a, oh, that's a good project, and maybe that environment can get the best out of me and kind of take me to the next level. A little bit like we have with Hijack, Tino, Hall, Bruno to an extent. So yes, positive, but personally I'm not sold just yet.
Interesting. Sean, welcome to the show, mate. What do you make of mate? What do you make of the winger situation? So obviously Gordon is leaving to Barca. Yep. Kev says there that the talk of Harvey Barnes leaving has accelerated, yep. So that's a bit of a weird one in one way, with Gordon also leaving. Pulisic has been mentioned there by someone in the comments. I mean, would you look at him, and who else would you look at if not? What do you think about the winger situation right now?
I think the winger situation is it's always been like that, hasn't it, with Newcastle? Always a problem. But like I covered last night about Harvey Barnes, I don't think Harvey Barnes will go. The only thing, if he does go, I think the attraction of Champions League will go. Who's making that noise?
This is not cool. I heard it. Go on, mate. I think we're good now.
But no, I think Gordon going to Barca, I think, is a really good transfer. Good for us if we get 80 million. But yeah, we need someone who is going to be an Eddie Howe style player, who likes to track back, likes to get back a bit, defends. But like I heard Boki say, and yourself, I don't know why we haven't got 3 players up the top. But that's where our left winger should be, not a Gordon. Gordon shouldn't be really tracking back. Do you know what I mean? The kind of talent he's got with a burst of pace. But I would like to keep Harvey Barnes at Newcastle. I think he give him a crack.
I think next season, I agree, Sean, in that if obviously Gordon's going, so I do wonder if you can afford to let Barnes go, because he has underwhelmed at times this season in certain games, but he does have the output. And if you can squeeze more out of him next season, and it's not exactly playing every game, because I think Ramsey could be a good player to come in, different type of player, but if he's playing on the left, coming inside and asks questions that way, and if we're going to play more technical football here and there, I think he could be an answer. So if you've got those 2 players plus Parker coming through, do you have enough there? That's what I've been wondering. But if Barnes is going, then my word, we're going to have to get a lot of new players, aren't we?
Yeah.
DXK is joining. It's getting crowded in here, isn't it, lads? What do you think, DX, about it all? Gordon and who we could get?
Well, I think it was inevitable, wasn't it? The only surprise was it was Barcelona who seemed to sign him rather than Bayern Munich. So whether that was all a bit of a smokescreen or there was genuine interest from Bayern where he didn't really seem to fit, it seemed like a strange move for him. Like he would have been maybe a backup to all 3 of the forward positions. But yeah, I think it's a great move for him. I guess that's, well, maybe we could get Rashford, eh? But no, it's an interesting move for him. Yeah, it's and what's the fee? 70 million, 69 million?
Yeah.
Not bad.
Do you think there's a
9.
potential then we could bring Ferran Torres the other way?
Oh, I'd love that. But he plays quite a lot of games and quite a lot of minutes for Barcelona, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
But
don't think so.
it would be nice if we could sneak in a little swap deal. You know, I don't know who they've got that we could maybe get. But I think, yeah, I guess it would be somebody like we'll have to take a punt on someone because I don't think we're going to be able to get the top players, and we weren't even able to really get our top targets when we were in the Champions League. So in terms of someone to replace Gordon, I'm not sure who it was, but someone said Visser might play on the left, which is an interesting. I haven't really thought about that. That's an alternative, maybe.
Didn't he do that at Brentford when Tony was through the middle? I'm sure it was
He
Whistle
did.
left and then Bremo
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and also obviously for his national team, he plays more or less on the left-hand side. So it's like I said, it's an option that Eddie Howe has if he wants to bring, something different to the side, rather than forcing. Like I say, the last thing Newcastle can survive this season with is those 11 Tower signings that happened last, and they've all, apart from a couple, well, apart from one really. Ramsey, I'll give Ramsey a shout because he's done well. But from a couple, they've all been really poor buys. So Eddie Howe's got to get it right. Well, Ross Wilson, by the looks of it, seems to be holding the purse strings today. Gentlemen, I'm going to let you crack on with the rest of the show. It's been lovely.
Yeah, my
I'll
chief.
catch you on the next
Cheers,
one, my
Gary.
daughter. See
Take
you,
care.
bud.
Cheers. Yeah, the American Mag, Chris, will be with us at some point soon, so hang in there. Folks, he's on the way, but for now, we'll crack on. I think, this summer, sorry, it is fascinating. And I was reading an article by Mark Douglas for the iPaper, and I've said what I think about Eddie Howe in regards to what should happen, and I have kind of lost faith basically, but I don't want to dwell on that. I said my piece last night, but reading that article, it does give a bit of hope, I think, because it's fair to say that they have put in, going off this article, a lot of work up until now and lay the foundations for this summer. I do believe that they've done that, and they said that they had lists for Champions League, lists for Europa League and Conference, and a list for no European football that obviously they're now working on and going through. And it is a case of just simply following through with the work that they have done. It's not like, okay, what we're going to do now? What about him? What about him? No, they've actually got everything in place, and it's about pressing the button, basically. So, and this with Gordon is testament to that. It does seem like, it's all in place. And apparently, like I said about the Rennes keeper, that is close. So that is a massive positive, because for me, goalkeeper is absolutely urgent. We need that. We need two, really. But we absolutely need a starting goalkeeper. So if we can get him over the line as Gordon goes, and that starts the summer in a good way, both outgoings and income.
He's going to be the backup goalkeeper, though, isn't he? By the sounds of it.
And I'll come to you, Sean, in a second. But this is the question I have in a way, and this is what I was speaking to Pete about, in that we need to sign number one, because to me last season,
we do,
Ramsdale, it was a total gesture. Ramsdale clearly had no intention of starting him as a number one, because he got his chance. He didn't do that well, obviously, but I don't think there was a real desire from Eddie Howe to have Ramsdale as the starting goalkeeper. So I don't want that to happen again. But Sean, where do you stand on the goalkeeper situation?
No, I do think we need another goalkeeper, a permanent starter. Nick Pope, I've heard he's going to Leeds, isn't he? I heard that Leeds are after him. But no, I think Ramsdale did all right when he came in. Yeah, he was hiding the deep end, but he did some amazing saves, you know what I mean? But we've always been lacking in that goalkeeper this season, like changing from one to each other. It was not a set. Yeah, but we do need, I think the main position for us is a goalkeeper, like a major sign as a goalkeeper. But
have you seen much of this Rennes keeper?
No, I haven't seen much of him, no.
I haven't myself either. Kev, have you seen anything of him?
No, but I think it's quite important to get an established goalkeeper. Mainly, I think our fans aren't the most patient when the ball's getting knocked around sideways to the back. I think if it goes back to a young keeper and he makes a howler in his first 2 or 3 games,
Feels like Gallagher breathing down his neck.
it's going to be tough for him unless he's got an incredible. I mean, again, you've got to be mental to be a goalkeeper, right? So he's probably got loads of self-confidence and backs himself. But it would be nice to get. It would be nice. We actually are all matching as well. Would be nice to get an established goalkeeper.
Yeah, definitely. Aye. Sorry, I've got to do that. There you can.
There we go.
Oh, nice.
See, Morrison's at the top. Look,
It's the green team. I didn't get the memo. Me and DX did not get that memo. Yeah. So, if any of you read the article by Mark Douglas, I mean,
In the Crown.
it's in the iPaper. It's behind a paywall, to be fair, so
Okay.
you might not have. But I mean, DX, are you confident going into this summer? And there's a whole dynamic with Eddie Howe. Obviously, a lot of people lost faith and they think, well, he's also choosing the players. But I think that everything is in place. I think there's a determination by the board to get this right and to follow through with what they've put in, the work they've put in up until now. How confident are you this summer?
Yeah, I think definitely I'm more confident than I was last summer because we do have the right team to actually recruit the players that we need rather than just sending out random people to try and negotiate deals, like we did last summer, and look how that turned out. So I'm definitely feeling more confident than I was last time. In terms of the goalkeeper, I agree with you 100% that we need a first choice. I'd say there's never been a bad footballer with the initials JT, so let's stick to that with our goalkeeper. And I would like to see us revamp the squad, get a few good. I think we're going to need another forward. We need someone dynamic who's clinical. I think would be useful, and a bit of pace. And obviously, it sounds like we're going to have to revamp the wings, the defense. So a lot of work to be done. So starting early is good. It's nice to see. When was the last time we signed a young goalkeeper? I mean, Pope was 30, Vakadimus was 30, Ruddy was about 38. Gillespie wasn't young. So they've all been quite. Dubravka was pushing 30. So this is the first young goalkeeper we've signed probably since like Tim Krul kind of time. So yeah, if he signs, so that's a good sign, positive sign. The squad is an aging squad. A lot of them are leaving now. Trippier, Target, people like that. So yeah, I'm kind of like quite pleased in a way that it does sound like we've changed our philosophy. And I think it will be a better summer for us. I hope so. See some players leave. Gordon leaving is not. I'm not shedding any tears over that one. I think he's a good player, but good fee, good move for him. And let's spend the money wisely. Don't get any more Alangas.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask you your thoughts on different things that have happened this season. And so, Borky, I'll start with you. What's your most memorable game of the season in a positive way?
Oh, in a positive way, that's tough for me. Do you know what? It was the first half against Chelsea. I thought we played absolutely brilliant in that first half against Chelsea. The fact that we drew the fact that we drew it 2-2 still haunts us to this day. We were so good in that game in the first half. I was sitting at the match with my mate. We were waxing lyrical over them. His pals, a coach who coaches Chelsea players, and he was saying, I'm going to be able to take the mick out of him all week. We're going to smash these. We're going to go on. We're going to. And it proved to be the premise of the rest of the season in regards to the fact we didn't. But I just think that first half against them was absolutely brilliant. As I say, the rest of the season was proven in the second half.
Yeah. Kev?
Most memorable was 2. I'm not going to say 2 though, because one I think is going to be very popular, so I'm not going to say the obvious one. But the 4-3 against Leeds, I don't know. Was that the obvious one? Sorry, I was going to say a different one.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the 2-1 against Sunderland.
No, it was going to be a 10-man performance with a goal of a month contender. I was going to say that one, but I'm going to say Leeds, mainly because I don't know what it was. It was just, I think it's probably just the last minute winner, and a little part of it was Leeds were wasting so much time. Like, I know everybody wastes time. We do it. Every team does it. So I completely understand as part of the game. But Leeds were like taking the absolute mick. Like, we almost wanted the referee to tell them to move back on throw-ins. The keeper was waiting to pretty much be carded and still didn't get carded. And I was like, oh, you, but I can't say it, but it wasn't a nice word.
You can now, I think.
Yeah. You bastards. And then it got to a point where it was like, right, ball comes in. I thought it was a foul on Botman. I was like, we're going to get a penalty, last minute penalty. And then just Barnes obviously squeezes it in, and just pandemonium everywhere. Just that 4-3 was magic. But there's been a couple, I know it hasn't been a great season, but there's still been a couple of games. I mean, even like the Benfica Champions League game was really enjoyable because we never looked in danger and it was comfortable, and I was a little bit worried going into that one. Champions League, Mourinho coming to St James's, even though he's got a terrible record at St James's. But I was still a little bit worried because of the occasion. But yeah, there's still been some good games. But I'm going to go Leeds, and I'm sorry for taking up two of us to DX and Sean.
Can I just ask Kev, what big game have we done well in this season?
USG. I know it wasn't a great opponent, but in terms of going into a knockout round, obviously.
No, but I mean Premier League wise, sort of what big team in the Premier League have we done well this season?
Man United. I thought Man United was must win. Obviously, we're still talking about the outskirts of Europe, and it was must. We went down to 10 men, and I thought, oh my God, everything which could go against us this season is clearly going to go against us for the whole season. And then we still managed to get a win with 10 men. I thought that was huge. That was really enjoyable. But yeah, less so than other seasons. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Normally, there's been big games previously in the last 4 years, and I thought, wow, we showed up in the big games. But this season's just been, I don't know what it is. I think I've said many times on the channel without going into the whole Eddie Howe thing, it's a mix of many things. You've got to take into a lot of different components on why this season's been the way it is. How, obviously, criticism warranted at times, the whole Asula deal, the summer, no clarity above how over the summer. Hijack on strike was a killer. Voltemada coming in, which not his fault, but not the right style of player. Wissa getting injured, paying 55 million for somebody you could have gotten a free. It all stunk of desperation, and everyone turning us down as well. But and then training. I mean, my God, I've mentioned training so many times. But yeah, loads of issues around this season. But one big game at least came up good, right, Bokey?
Sean, any games for you that come to mind?
Obviously, the Leeds game, he said. I would say that I was going to say Man United.
Sorry.
Down as well. Barcelona at home.
Mm-hmm.
That was a game.
Atmosphere was immense.
Yeah. The build-up, being outside St James's Park for that was just immense. Like, the atmosphere outside the ground, it was just mind-blowing. But you see, it had that historian, didn't it, with Asprilla and the times that came back, the glory times. So it was a build-up game, and to me, that I think the Barca game was, with Lewis Hall, what a performance from him.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, definitely.
That's so them 3 games, you know, but 2 of them already got mentioned.
Sorry, Sean.
Sorry.
You invited this dickhead on the panel.
But you've mentioned mine now, mate, Sean. That was my game. Because it was brilliant, and like obviously heartbreak at the ends. It wouldn't be Newcastle this season if that wasn't thrown in there. But everything before that was like I was proud watching it. Do you know what I mean? I was like, this is what we could be. And I was listening to the radio as well before the game, and everyone was talking about it and talk sport, and like you say, Sean, talking about the Tino game and the legacy of the fixture, and it was just class. It was like, we're back, you know, and it's just obviously really disappointing how it all tailed off in the end. DX, any for you that come to mind?
Well, yeah, a few that I had in mind have been mentioned, but there was a couple of other ones I thought deserve the notable mention, let's say. I think Man City, the 2-1 win, where Barnes scored 2 goals. I thought that was a great comeback. We were 1-0 down in that game as well, so that was a fantastic comeback. Barnes took the winner brilliantly. And I thought the Aston Villa FA Cup game, because at that point, going to Villa and winning 3-1 from 1-0 down, I thought, wow, okay, we could actually win this, because we'd beaten, was it Fulham, Bournemouth, and... Is it Fulham? No, Bournemouth, somebody else, and Villa, wasn't it? Anyway, we then get Man City, and then would have had Liverpool, and you think, Jesus, it just wasn't meant to be, really. But apart from that, I mean, I suppose the Everton, but it doesn't feel the same. But the Everton away game was our best away performance, wasn't it? The 4-1.
Mm.
And that Union SG game, the first half of that was mental. I mean, it was 5-0 after about half an hour, wasn't it? So that little flurry was a bit crazy. So there were a few pockets of happiness there, but that's out of 56 games or something. So yeah, struggling, clutching at straws after those.
Champions League, wasn't
I,
it?
I don't like to be me, but I'm going to be me. I'm Borky, so this is me. So you look at that, but you also look then to the games that you've been disappointed with this season, and there's been so many more than they have that you can. We're actually trying to pickpocket games that we think have been great. We've picked maybe 6-7 games. You look at the rest of them.
Yeah.
You look at the Sunderland games. I hate going back to it, but I've got to if we're having this conversation. If we're having a conversation saying there's been great games, there's been absolutely terrible games.
Shockers.
You know,
Brentford, both Brentford games.
Yeah,
Everton.
Brentford games exactly. You know,
Yeah, but to me,
I think we could sit if we do this the other way around. I think we could sit and name so many other games that have been absolutely shit.
Well, pick one,
that's the problem.
Yeah, there's one obvious.
Oh,
there's two obvious ones. Really, but
it's the two Sunderland ones for me. You know,
you
never ever get away with losing against your local rivals, and you never get away with it twice, and you never get away with it twice in a season where one game's at home. You know, there's absolutely no excuse for that, especially when we're the bigger team than them. You know, in all honesty, we have we have the better squad, we have the better players, and they've done more over twice.
Yeah.
How the hell do you excuse that?
Well, I was just wondering how many teams have done the double over us in the league this season. Obviously, Brentford are one, aren't they? Sunderland. There must be a few that I'm forgetting. Arsenal, did Arsenal beat us twice? I think they did. Yeah, they did. And Liverpool.
Yeah, they did.
That's 4. There's got to be another couple in there. So that might be a record, mightn't it? A club record, that's not a good record. You don't want things like that. Yeah. CV.
Well, do you know about saying before about like some of the best games, and now you're saying, Borky, about some of the worst moments of the season. Like this game I'm going to mention does have both of those elements, and that's the Liverpool home game at the start of the season.
Oh Christ!
In that and I was at the Stack for that game, and again we're talking about the buzz. The buzz beforehand in town was amazing. It felt like I was back in the 90s where everyone was wearing the black and white shirt and everyone was up for it and really excited. There was a whole edge to the game with Liverpool and the Hijack situation going on. And it was like everyone's united to do these over tonight, Liverpool. And the fight, Sean, and the pride, really, I thought the players showed that night was brilliant. It made me proud watching that, just like the Barca game. But my word, that was an absolute dagger to the heart when they scored at the ends, and it did go on to typify the season, didn't it? Where, come on, we need to hold on here, at least get a point. We're going for the win, but down to 10 men, let's get a point, and we can't hold on. And we had God knows how many goals against us in stoppage time after that. Yeah, was there any for you, Sean? Was there any one game? I mean, yeah, the Mackems, you said it, wasn't it?
Yeah, because obviously where I am, I'm in the middle, aren't I? So I hear everything about Sunderland.
Yeah,
and Newcastle. It's not like I live in Newcastle city centre, is it? Where it's just.
Well, I'm in Washington, mate. So
exactly. So you get the same.
Yeah.
And that's what it was for me. The build up to the game, a few games before, Sunderland were like, "We're going to do yours," and I'm like, "No, you're not." You know what I mean? Like, and oh my god, as soon as I heard it, and they beat us, that was all drilled into us. But then when they got a Europa League, oh my god, I've never heard the living of it. And they said we should have. What my friend said to me was, we should have beat them. Like they've came back up after being out of the Premier League for over 15 years. Do you know what I mean? A long time, and they've came back for the first time, and they've done the double, and they've got European football. And I'm in, like yourself, Washington. You're in the middle of it, and it's not a good feeling.
Yeah. No, and it's the first time it's happened as well, and with my lifetime, and you're thinking, how the hell has this happened? Like you say, you wouldn't have thought that at the start of the season. There's no chance, and it's just like a 180 we've done. I mean, like I said last night, fair play to them, and they've shown what you can
Absolutely.
do with a high turnover of players. So, and football changes quickly, like we've seen. So there's always like the next season, the next game, etc. So, let's see what happens. But yeah, I'm not going to deny that they've done brilliantly and they're going to enjoy that tour next
This
season.
has gone on a bit of a downer now. Can I just say, for next season, I think there's a bit of a chance we could win the Premier League next season with the way the
Speak out 180s,
turnover.
Jesus Christ.
I know. This
Well,
isn't like me, but in seriousness, you look at it. The teams that have changed manager, the top 6 are all going to be changing manager potentially if Slot goes as well. So you've got a potential there that they're not going to have consistency in their managers. They've all got rebuilds.
Yeah.
Sorry, Arsenal keep their manager, but let's face it, if you put a challenge up against Arsenal, you'll beat them because they'll bottle it. So there is a massive chance next season. Things can get better. And I'm probably a bit like King Kev. He haven't been a bit too positive about things, but I really, really do think next season could be like a Leicester sort of season, where there's so much change in the top teams in the Premier League that it gives you a chance.
I think we'll get Champions
Look at
League.
Champions League. Yeah.
It's like when Nobby Solana used to predict we did the treble every season when they asked for the pre-season.
And a trophy. I think we'll win a trophy in the
But
Champions League.
I'm not saying we'll win the Premier League, but I'm saying there's a chance there.
I think we can
There's a
have a proper
chance.
go at those 3 competitions, can't we? Rather than being overburdened with 4 competitions, because I don't think we were equipped for that. So it gives us a bit more breathing space, which is something, and hopefully that helps. We've seen this year with Man United; they were terrible last season, and okay, they changed manager in the middle of the season, but that lack of European football seemed to really help them. It just gave them that time to adjust and adapt. We've got to take advantage of it. It's the one thing we have, really.
Do you know what? The chat are calling us out and asking us to justify it, and I will justify it. There's a lot of change of managers at the top of the league.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rebuilding to do with other clubs. We've got a manager who's been in here for years. So, there's a massive chance that I
Well, I
think
thought he's
there's
not the
that-
man, Borky. Is he the man now?
He's staying. I'm not going to come on here. To be fair, if I come on here night after night and just say, Eddie Howe out, people will just, say, you're a mug. So I'm not. I want new. What people don't understand is when I say Eddie Howe out, I want it because of Newcastle United. I don't want it because I don't like Eddie Howe as a bloke. Now, if next season he can turn this around and do that, I'll be the first one in this channel to go Eddie Howe's Black and White Army, and be the chanter again. I'll be up there with Win. Be a happy clapper.
Got to back them when you're there, no doubt.
No.
Was there? Let's have a look. This isn't working at my end here. Yeah, King Kev, you're amazing. I forgive you. You're top bud.
I upset was the last time I was hosting. I can't remember what I said, but I'm glad he forgives us. Thanks, brother. Legend.
Cheers, was it? Kev, what do you make of
her? Didn't you, Kev?
What?
I think you said he was a dick, didn't you?
I didn't.
Really?
That's
not like you, Kev.
I definitely didn't say that. Definitely didn't say that.
I've never heard
No,
him
he didn't say that.
I would never say that.
He would never say that. He's a gentleman.
Exactly. What was your question? Sorry, Tim.
Well, what's your enthusiasm for next season? Do you think we could mount a challenge? What do you think of what Borky said there?
I live very positively, so I don't think. I mean, mounting a challenge. I can see what Borky's saying. He's saying obviously no European football could help us massively. Which, when you look under previous seasons with how our seasons without Europe have always been quite enjoyable. It's an understatement. Won the League Cup, which I know people say it's only the League Cup, but my God, to Newcastle fans, it means the world, like the World Cup. I think it'll be a very positive season personally, mainly because, again, we know, and my criticism of how this season, not that there's been a lot of it, as everyone in my comment jumps all over us all the time, but I do criticise how, and my main criticism was, he struggles to adapt when he can't get on the training pitch. So the 2 games a week, the Champions League, the League Cup, the FA Cup, I think on average we got further than every other team. I mean, when you look at Villa, obviously the FA Cup wasn't as where we put better out the FA Cup, so we definitely didn't go as far there. League Cup, I'm not sure, but we got quite far in almost every competition to a point where we just had zero time on the training pitch. So for that reason, I think one game a week massively benefits us. If we do have to adapt formation, we do have to change things. It gives them 3 or 4 days, maybe full training to actually get the message across. Again, previously when people have said, why didn't we change formation earlier, 30 odd games ago? Well, you can't just let players watch a video in training and say, I want you to do that next time you're actually on the pitch, because again, the travel of European football, the travel of the cups, a lot of away games again in the cup. So yeah, I think personally, I'm probably going to aim for. I'd love to win another trophy. I'd take a trophy and not in the Champions League, or if we don't get a trophy, I think we've got to be top 5, playing one game a week. Look, previously Villa, Tottenham and Spurs and Man U played Europa League a couple of seasons ago and finished 17th and 16th. It's really, really difficult to manage European football. I know we've been absolutely hammered for it, and we've rightly so criticised our team for not being able to manage Europe the last twice we've been in it. But we're not the only ones who struggle managing Europe. So I think there's a big opportunity next year with having so many English teams in Europe. We could capitalise.
Yeah, just to come back on a few things there, I think it's difficult because I absolutely agree, mate, and it is difficult to manage Europe, and other teams have had the same issues. But then other teams like Aston Villa haven't. Like you say, they haven't had the cup competitions as well to go alongside the European campaign and the league to juggle, and that's maybe one reason. But then I would also say that does Unai Emery, rotate the side in a better way and manage the squad in a better way?
I think
So
he has
that-
more option though. You look at the injuries we had. There was a time when Voldemar played midfield. Everyone was like, "Why is he playing?" It's because Toon Army had illness. Miley was injured. Bruno was injured, and I literally think we didn't have any other midfielders who could actually play in midfield. So our injuries have been horrendous as well.
There have been horrendous.
that right, Kev?
They've been poor, but
I'm sure it was a period where I don't know if it was Tonali's illness, but I'm sure Bruno was out, Miley was out, Willock was out, I think, and I think we literally had. I don't know if I think Tonali was out as well. I'm sure there was definitely four centre midfielders out at the same time. And when you play a 4-3-3, I know everyone was like, well, you should change formation. But again, you can't do that with potentially one full day of training a week. I think the only option he had was, who do I trust technically? I think originally he brought Voldemar out of the team when he was playing as a striker to protect him. And I know everyone will go all over that as well. But Voldemar started to struggle to score goals after his initial kind of goal scoring form, his purple patch. He started struggling after that. I think Howe took him out to kind of protect him. You look at Howe's youngish signings previously. Hall didn't play much in his first season because of that reason. I know Tino, for a period, didn't play when he first joined. So, because Trippier was there, obviously, but Tino was kind of the understudy. So, I know it sounds silly, but I think he tried to protect him when he brought him out. And then when there was an injury issue in midfield, it was almost a case of, who do I trust technically? Volta, I'll put him in. And then he got loads of stick for it, but people forget again, because we didn't have the injuries we did 2 years ago when we finished 7th. We've still had the second most days missed through injury in the entire league behind Tottenham. But again, I'm not making excuses. Howe could have, of course, done things better. But I just think it's important to put into context when these decisions are made and what happens.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both for me. I think just with a super chat first before I continue, we've got was it again, mate? Always appreciated. So how complicates the game? Get back to basics, please. Well, I think he has been muddled at times this season. I think he's confused himself with some of his subs and some of his tactics when trying to chase the game, which I think has been unlike him compared to previous seasons. I think Eddie Howe is very conservative in some of his decision making, and while he has been hamstrung with things going against us, with the fixtures, with injuries, I absolutely get that, and also the lack of training time to implement new ideas. I understand that. I just think there's also elements where he could have adapted a bit more, and he still could have tried things a little bit more in terms of giving the players a bit more time in the 90 minutes on match day to try and implement something new over a course of time. I don't expect them to do something in one training session. Like you say, Kev, there are mitigating circumstances to not trying something initially. But with Aston Villa, I think, they have played youngsters here and there. There was a young striker that played for them in the Europa League one time who scored some goals. And I just think Eddie Howe needs to maybe dip into that a little bit more, certainly in dead rubber games like the Carabao game. But we could go all day. I don't want to dwell too much on Eddie
I
Howe.
think what we'd do. I was just going to say, Tim. I think what we do need to do is accept Eddie Howe's going to be here next season. We're all Newcastle United fans, and we all want Newcastle United to do the best. So let's hope he gets the players in he wants. He gets the mentality of the players to the right level, and we'll move on from here. There's people who will have very, very deep doubts in that, and I'll be one of them. But if he comes out next season and has an absolute blinder, as a Newcastle United fan, I'll be absolutely over the moon. We've got to get behind the guy, I guess, because he's going to be manager next season. So it's pointless us sitting here just calling him out constantly over the summer. I think at this point we have to say he's going to be the manager. And we hope that he does the best he can for Newcastle United.
Yeah, if he stays, we need to harness that United front. I absolutely agree. And I think we will, if we have a good summer, if we have a high turnover, I think people will be like, okay, we're back on board. And that's what it should be if you go on the ground, certainly as well. We need to make St James's a fortress again. So on the note of positivity, right, DX, who has been your most undervalued player this season?
Undervalued player. Well, you got the headline acts, haven't you? Bruno Hall, I guess they're the big hitters. Undervalued. That's a tough one to call. Have a little think about that. Who's sort of underrated their contribution?
Yeah.
Just going through the team in my head.
Tough one, isn't it, this season? But
well, I suppose the only one I can think of maybe you could make an argument for is Harvey Barnes, but I don't know if we really undervalue him. I think maybe he's undervalued in general terms because he hasn't been breathtakingly brilliant, but he's still scored 16 goals from open play and 6 or 7 in the league, which isn't too bad. And I think he's actually looked like he's a bit hit and miss, Harvey Barnes. He always has been a bit like that, but when he's hit, he's really good. His finishing's except probably the best in the whole squad. So he's the only one I can think of because other players we've kind of heralded them, the ones who've done well, haven't we? Like I say, Chow, you'd probably say first half of the season. Hall and what's his face? The other guy, Bruno. Those three. I would say Bruno is my player of the season, but yeah, I think Barnes is the one that I'd maybe just give that little extra thumbs up because no one's really, apart from Chris, has really thrown his name out there that much. Or Nick Pope. I'm kidding, not Nick Pope.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think Barnes is a good shout. I think he's been undervalued earlier on the season.
There is one other one. Sorry, Tim. I just came into my head and it wasn't there before. Lewis Miley, I think, because he hasn't played that much, but when he's played, I think he's taken his game to another level this season. I was really overjoyed to hear that he signed that new contract. I think that's brilliant. Him, Lewis Hall, Bruno, those kind of players we need to keep. We need to try and keep them. Can't be like seeing Elliot Anderson go to Man City is heartbreaking. This is devastating. Him and Miley, the two best kids that have come through the academy in 20 years, and to lose one of them for really peanuts because we had to buy the goalkeeper Vlachodimos for a huge fee. It's a bit of a tough one to watch. That really.
Yeah, true. Sean, what do you think? I mean, I do think Harvey Barnes, like I said, I think he played well at the start of the season, or midway through the season, in a really good run of form. And I think technically he's superb when he gets it right. And I think we as a team could have made more of him this season before he tailed off. But any players that come to mind that you think, are undervalued or we could have done more with this season?
See, I would have said Harvey Barnes as well, because he could play on the right as well. He's gone in that position. Lewis Miley, when he came back from injury, Like I say, here's a game. Like I say, if Toon Army goes, I could see Lewis Miley playing that position, really doing quite well in it. He likes to get physical. He played well at right back, didn't he? And he's not even a right back player. So I would go Lewis Miley as well. But yeah, there would be them two for me. Obviously, we know my player of the season would be Lewis Hall. I think he was just outstanding, and surprised how he hasn't gotten the World Cup, really. But no, I would go Harvey Barnes and Lewis Miley.
Well, Kev wants to sell Lewis Hall.
Does he know?
Didn't say I wanted
I'm joking about it.
Yeah,
you have to be a sensible business, and everyone has a price, is what I said. Undervalued players for me, I agree with Miley. I think coming in at right back as a young player and understanding that role as well as he did was massively impressive. If it was 20 minutes he played centre half, I'm sure. The game Shaw got injured and he didn't even look out of place there, so that's undervalued for me. The other one, and I've always appreciated him, but how much we miss Fabian Shaw. My God, there was a period he played centre half with Chow. He played left side, left centre. And I think we won 2 or 3 in a row at home. Granted, I think it was Fulham and a couple of us we should have won. But wow, the way we miss him so much in terms of how he plays out from the back. Even just like his zip on his passes to the left back gives the left back more time. Sometimes Burner Botman will kind of like roll it to Hall, and it's like, well, he's only got 1 touch now and he's got to go back. So you're not giving him much chance. Shaw's distribution is just, for me, if we sign a centre half, it's massively important their distribution is as good as Fabian Shaw's, because we massively missed that. So undervalued this season for me would be Fabian Shaw, because he didn't start as a regular. He then forced his way back into the first 11. Looked like he was going to form a great partnership with Chow. Chow looked at his best alongside Shaw, in my opinion, as well. And then he got injured, and it was just, we looked slow. We didn't move the ball quick enough. A lot of it was backwards and sideways. And I was like, wow, Fabian Shaw is a huge miss.
It was that Man United game, wasn't it? When he got injured, am I right in saying? We were playing really well in the game itself.
I thought it was earlier in the season.
I was at Leeds.
Do you know who I think's been a little bit of an unsung hero is Ramsey?
Yeah.
You know, he has stepped into the team. He's never let us down, really. I can't think back and think of anything massive that he's done wrong. And, you know, he hasn't been... The big problem was we bought a lot of players in at the start of the season who weren't given a big chance. See, that lad never really got much of a chance until halfway through the season. Yeah. And I was the first one to come on here and say, look, he was Aston Villa's 6th choice midfielder. Why the hell we signed him? But I accept the fact I'm wrong. He is a good midfielder. He is a good player.
But didn't Stevie Gerrard say that about him, or didn't he?
I think if he was given a little bit more of a chance, he would have probably been a really, really good signing this season in regards to watching how he developed. I think we've sort of let the lad down a little bit by not playing him enough.
Yeah, there was a run of games in December and January where we had the Champions League and the Premier League, and Joe Linton was starting in all of them.
Game.
Yeah, and it was in that run when I was disappointed, because like you said there, I've thought Ramsey always looked a good player from the glimpses was seen. And I think he's proved to be a good player. I think he's been a good signing, and I think there is more to come. And I would have liked to have seen more of him earlier in the season. And like I said, going forward next season, I think him playing on the left, coming inside, is a decent option. It depends how you want to play it, doesn't it? And if Eddie Howe wants to go back to the 4-3-3, high intensity, maybe not. But if you want to play a bit more of a technical build-up and more of an evolution while still having the pace and power, if you like, and the direct play, then I think Ramsey is a decent option, because right wing for me is a priority. I've got a super chat there from Was It Again. Cheers,
Ramsey
mate.
missed 8 to 10 games. 8 to 10. Sorry.
Go on, Kev.
Ramsey missed 8 to 10 games this season through injury as well, which probably didn't help him. I know we should have played him more, absolutely, but it's almost like, I don't know, I'm sick of saying the same thing, but like it's almost like everything which could have went wrong in one season went wrong. Like, even Ramsey, when he started to come into the team and look good, he then picked up a knock. And was it like the second or third game of the season? I'm
Leeds
sure he
away.
had a half decent game.
Yeah, it was
He
Leeds.
came off at half time. Was that
Yeah,
illness?
Leeds.
Am I getting mixed up with something?
It was
No,
Longstaff who
second game
went.
he was sick, wasn't he? Puked.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was a
sick.
game he came off sick, and I'm thinking, God, he's starting to look decent. I mean, I'm sure early on in the season he like done his thigh or his hamstring or something early on. I was like, oh man, I'm desperate to see him, and
he
it took
got
him
sent off
ages to
against
kind of
Man
get back
United.
up to it.
Aye.
Hmm.
Aye.
Yeah, I hope he has a good season next season. I hope so.
Yeah, I think, like I say, good player, and I think I just want to see a bit more in the final third in terms of shooting, in terms of goals and assists. But I think if he's given more license to get forward, I think we could see that because, yeah, like you said, technically he's got quality. Yeah, so was it there? Yeah, if we get Kamara, we can afford Barnes and Elanga high. So am I right in saying that you think because Kamara is more defensive minded, then Barnes and Elanga can push up? Is Kamara the centre midfielder from Monaco? Am I right in saying that, lads?
I'm not sure if it's Monaco. Is it Monaco? Yeah, it is Monaco, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've never seen him play, so I can't really
I think
comment.
it's defensive mid, isn't it?
yeah. So, yeah, Barnes and Elanga playing high. I mean, I absolutely agree that for me, we need somebody like him. From what I've seen of him and his profile that people talk about, somebody who wants to win tackles, who wants to cover ground and allow the attackers to have the license to play further up the field. What do you think, Kev, about the midfield? Do you want somebody like that, or are you happy to have more box-to-box eights?
One game a season, I think, Tonali, Jolinton and Bruno for stay fit, amazing because it's high intensity and you get that recovery time. But if we are going to try and look to compete in Europe regularly, I'd love to get like a holding midfielder who almost drops into as a centre half.
Right.
Even when we have the ball, so then the full-backs can bomb forward. Because if you remember the season we finished fourth, when Bourne was left back, Trippier used to just bomb. And you literally had a back three left at the back. It was always three almost left back. If we could do that again, but let both our young fullbacks, if they're both there, hopefully Hall and Tino just bomb forward, and then have a Kamara just sit centrally, and then maybe Chow as a wide centre back, and whoever the other centre back is, I would play Shaw personally, is another wide centre back when we are like on the ball would be incredible for me to see like a bit of an evolution of our game in terms of where we started, then we kind of lost our way a bit and then almost come up with something new. I'd love to see that, but again, it's tough. I haven't seen much of Kamara, if I'm honest, but again, Bournemouth do it really well. Sometimes Alex Scott is like centre half and the full backs are just absolutely bombing. You think, oh, on earth do you keep up with them? But it's because the traditional six doesn't even go forward when we attack. That's not Scott all the time, by the way. It switches, but yeah, it would be nice to see somebody like that come in. But I don't think it's a priority. I think goalkeeper, winger is now a priority. Goalkeeper and winger is massively important in a centre half for me as well.
Yeah, because I think Miley could maybe do that role, and then we can spend the money on those areas. Was it there said before? We need to buy players we can sing about. Yeah, we need players who the fans buy into, and we can get some good songs going. And something like the Colaccini song would be spot on. We need some of those songs again. Aye. A lot of the songs these days, you're not finding like just drawn on. They're kind of boring as hell. And I think Liverpool are like this as well, where it's like you're kind of at some kind of, I don't know, choir, something like that.
I tell you what I hate is the start of the match when they have Hey Jude. Yep, I don't get that at all. It's a fucking Liverpool song. It's nothing to do with Newcastle United, you know. But why the hell have that song on? Is it Newcastle United?
Now that's the frustrating part for me as well. Like there's so many clubs which have Hey Jude. I'm like,
aye, Brentford, aye.
We have started with Back and Black, haven't we? Like AC/DC's kind of come in the last couple of home games of the season, so see if that sticks.
Get Geordie singers on. Get Geordie singers on. Let's say Anton Deck.
Yeah.
Brian Johnson.
Don't even do Get Ready to Rumble. Do We're on the Ball, which is a 2002 England song. Just for the class.
We could adopt that.
I mentioned Michael Owen though, so I know some people. Well, most people don't like Michael Owen, so maybe not.
Well,
I actually quite like Michael Owen.
I didn't hate him as much as others.
No,
same here. Like,
not.
Aye. I was going to say something else, went out my mind.
Did you ever hear the Penny story with Michael Owen?
Penny.
One boy.
The like Money Penny.
Yeah.
Him and Terry McDermott and Kevin Keegan challenged Owen and somebody else in the squad to a game of keep you uppies with the head for £2,000. So they did it. They were like, "No, we'll do that. That's fine because like these two old blokes will never beat us." And Kevin Keegan and Terry McDermott won. And Owen sent his dad to the local bank for £2,000 worth of pennies to pop on his desk to pay for the bet.
I have heard that. How? Yeah. Don't know how often got it.
Aye. Nicky Butt mentioned that, didn't he? And it was like you say, Nicky Butt and Michael Owen together. And then Nicky Butt said that he told Kevin Keegan, because Keegan said something that he put along the lines of, "You Man U players, you never like to lose," or something like that. And he said back to Keegan, "Yeah, that's why we won the league." And you couldn't or something. And Keegan took the huff. And Nicky Butt said that Keegan didn't speak to him very much for the next few months. Yeah, but he loved Keegan, loved playing under Keegan.
It's not like Keegan to spit his dummy out.
But
the weird thing with Owen was he hated Kevin Keegan when he was playing for England. Yeah, you hear him when he talks about him at Newcastle, and he absolutely loves him. Yeah. So just such a change.
Keegan made him captain, didn't he? I remember he scored 2 goals against Sunderland and beat them 2-0, and Owen was captain when he scored both goals.
Played a front three.
Yeah.
Viduka, Martins and Owen. Unbelievable.
He played Owen as like slightly back against where he used to play.
Number 10,
Viduka was like a false 9-10, and then you had them up there. Yeah.
It was honestly, it was great memories. I know it was a shambolic time in our history with Mike Ashley and what happened. It was heartbreaking what happened later on in that summer. But for those few months, I loved seeing Michael Owen in the number 10 with Martins and Viduka ahead of him, because it was impossible for the opposition to defend. And Michael Owen did get a spring in his step because he was ghosting into the box unmarked. Yeah. And I think Keegan doesn't get the credit he deserves for things like that. I know it wasn't all about tactics, but with Kevin Keegan, but then he came up with something really, really good. And Michael Owen played really well in that period. I know he was injured for a lot of the time, and there was question marks about his commitment in regards to the clause in his contract to go to Liverpool, and that wasn't ideal. But I think there were some positives, and like you say, that those 2 goals against the Mackhams. But Sean, what are your memories? I know we're going a bit off topic here, current team, but what are your memories of that time? I mean, I think those front 3, I think they were good. Martins, Viduka, and
Abdullahi Faye turned into a brick for about 6 months.
He did.
He was good. Yeah, the centre back. Yeah, not to be confused with Andy Faye,
who was horrendous. Yeah,
he was a good number 6, would he? Get him back. Sean, what are your memories of those times?
Oh, there were good times, weren't they? Obviously not under Ashley, it was bad. But we've had good times under a lot of, like under Freddie Shepherd, didn't we? And bad times under him, and same with Ashley. But my good favourites was under Freddie Shepherd, really, with Asprey and John Hall, Ginola, where you did the 5-0 over Man United, and that was the entertainers. And that's what Howe wanted to do, didn't he? So, different times. But, that was my memories. That's when I was growing up as a kid, that was my team.
Was it comparable early on with the Eddie Howe days? What were them? Because I was a little bit too young. I remember football like the back end of Keegan left. I think we finished second under Dalglish. Was like my first proper memory season. Not great, really. Second's good, but I know it wasn't a lot of it. Stephen Mender wasn't positivity around Newcastle. Dalglish pretty much.
I think I'm probably the oldest fan here in regards to age. And I think part of the problem is that, like, to my age, so sort of 45, 46, so I'm older, you look at Keegan years and you just think, oh, that was brilliant. That was, and it's probably, it is, because I mean, we had crap seasons under Keegan, to be honest.
Really?
I had the season where we sold finished absolutely, we were shit, we were rubbish.
Didn't we sell Andy Cole for Gillespie?
By the way, a crap season back then was like 6th place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
I remember being devastated when Glenn Roeder finished 7th, right? Glenn Roeder finished 7th, and I was gutted. I was saying to my dad, I was like, 7th? Are you kidding?
You
I had Bobby. I've been third, fourth, and I couldn't understand why people wanted Bobby out.
You had
what
you had Kitson up front for a season for. So the word it wasn't the brilliantest of times, but I think there was just such a positivity around the team and around everything. And I think if we'd been doing this sort of thing at the time, would all have been like looking like we'd been doing drugs basically, and coming on here.
I think
coming on here,
we'll
win with the happy flops.
Yeah, but that team though under Keegan though, when it was entertainers, they didn't know how to defend. That's what it did.
If podcast existed back then or social media existed, oh my god.
All they had in their brain was
he didn't give a crap about defending, though, did he?
No,
really.
If they scored
really
one, we're going to score two. We're going to score two. If you score 6, we're scoring 7. That's the mentality it was, and
it was just nuts. But it was so passionate football. It was such buzz around buzz around the area of Newcastle. It was an amazing time. But I think we do look back on it a little bit with a little bit nostalgia. And now you look at it with how won we a cup? How
the style of football early on, the first 3, other than this season, the style of football was like the high press. I loved watching that style of football. Yeah. Just this season, it went a bit sour. But I mean, it's only.
Do you know what? All I want to say out of how there was a little bit of passion.
Yeah,
I just want to see him be a little bit, more
dry, isn't he, sometimes?
Upbeat. Yep, he's too in press conferences and after games and in game management. He's just so sort of level. He doesn't show you the passion, and I think that's the difference between him and Keegan.
I have a question.
I like that about Howe.
If you could take 2 players from any generation, obviously from Keegan, Bobby, who would you have?
2 players
to put into this team
now. This team.
Yeah.
Bobby first of all.
Shearer. We need a striker desperately.
And Peter Beardsley. Peter Beardsley would get into any squad that I ever pick.
I think maybe somebody like
Shearer and Given.
Given's a good shout.
Given would fix all the issues in goal, and then Shearer would fix all the issues of not scoring.
I think Given was tad overrated myself.
No,
Given and Ferdinand probably.
Big legs.
Guys, you guys never probably seen Peter Beardsley play, but
Beardsley's a good shout.
He was scouted by Arsenal, wasn't he? And Arsenal said he was too small, didn't he?
He is the best player I've ever seen.
They signed him, but they didn't play him.
I think Beardsley and Shearer are the 2 that would transform us. Like that would just. I mean,
I
Nobby is
where would Beardsley play in a modern system?
Well, 4-4-2 would be number 10 for me behind Shearer.
Yeah. So 4-4-1-1.
I think to get the best out of Shearer, you need somebody to wires the ball in from out wide. So maybe Nobby Solano if you're going to have Shearer.
Robert, bring back Lauren Robert.
I tell you, the best interview I've ever heard was from Gary Lineker about Beardsley. And somebody asked him, because he'd scored 49 goals for England, and he went, how do you score that many? And he went, well, 48, and then we're down to Peter Beardsley. And I think that tells you a lot about the bloke himself.
Yeah, he was very unselfish. He did it for Andy Cole. Did it for
brilliant footballer.
He used to go around with keeper and slide it left to Andy Cole, didn't he? To give Cole the number, but he didn't care. So yeah.
See, I would go Asprilla, or maybe or David.
I would love a Ben Arthur, but he wouldn't fit in modern football. Like modern football now, lost Maverick. There's no Ronaldinho's, no Kochers, no Janino.
The only thing with Asprilla is he didn't really score goals. I know he did in Europe, but in the league, I think he had something like 7 in about 40 games or something. He wasn't prolific.
So Bellamy's a great shout.
Yeah, wasn't saying Peter Craig Bellamy. What do you make of him, DX?
I love him.
I think he's one. We were talking earlier, players that don't get the credit they deserve, and I think he's one of those ones. We talk about the Shearers, of course, quite rightly. Ferdinand, Cole, Beardsley, wonderful players, but I think Bellamy's sort of in the mix of one of our better strikers in the Premier League. I mean, him and Shearer together were a fantastic strike force, and it's only that he fell out with Souness. I think he would have stayed with us for quite a few years because he was just starting to hit his peak when we loaned him out to Celtic, and then he went to Blackburn, and we had a fantastic season there, and then he ends up at Liverpool, Man City,
West Ham. He had a good season. He went to West Ham, and I remember he was on fire. Why did we get rid of him? But
got
it's
better.
Souness, wasn't it? Souness
He was only 25, yeah, and Souness was dragging him through the airport by his leg and all that. It was a real shame. So yeah, I think he's a player that I would. He was an absolute pain in the backside, but he was an amazing footballer. He was so quick. So, and the thing about him was we got him from Coventry City when he'd had a terrible season there. They'd got relegated, and we got him on the cheap, kind of like really for what he was. So yeah, one of those ones that Sir Bobby obviously saw something in him and took the risk.
There's a comment there, right? I don't normally do this, but there's a comment saying Keegan, Robson, Hullard, Pardew, and Steve Bruce did a better job than Eddie Howe.
No, that's
What?
ridiculous.
You cannot. I mean, come on. I can't deal with that. Like that.
Keegan for me was because of the promotion and stuff.
You could argue Keegan, of course you could, and Robson. I mean, you could put an argument forward, but I mean,
I wouldn't say Hullard, no.
I mean, Hurley, yeah, that's one of the worst.
It was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Bruce was horrendous.
Well,
Pardew
exactly.
had
And
one good season, to be fair.
Steve Bruce, like, yeah, I mean, people talk about the points tally with Steve Bruce, but you know, Eddie Howe has done what he's done with us in previous seasons. Steve Bruce
Never did that.
No, he didn't. He didn't get us top four, top
He
five.
didn't get us Champions League. He didn't take us on that run.
Hang on, lads. Or I'll flip.
You can't say Bruce.
I don't love Steve Bruce. I'm with
no,
you,
I don't.
you dickhead. But you know, in regards to this though, did he never had the money?
He did have the yeah.
He had 125 million pounds over the whole time that he was at Newcastle United.
You know, I actually think he
How had that in one? If you want to be honest, in one transfer window, double it because he
going down a
bought
dangerous
players
road.
he wanted. So you know,
No,
Bruce called
He
him
spent
out,
a lot of
called
money
him
in
out
his
for what he
first
did,
summer.
but
Steve Bruce was given a war chest that Rafa Benitez was begging for.
Yeah.
And as soon as Steve Bruce came in,
If you were looking at inflation, probably if you look at
as I
inflation,
say,
probably
he spent
massive what Howe spent in
125
summer.
million. He's full time.
But
Yeah, but
taking into context inflation, the war chest he was given his first summer was actually quite big. And
was quite big.
he would argue that he wasn't bothered in terms of like he didn't pick the players, and that's fine, but that's why he was hired. He was hired as a yes man. And he was happy to go
right.
on that way.
Where did
that was on the
Bruce
Ashfield.
finish in his? Where did Bruce finish in his?
Same
last
as
season
Rafa.
at
He got the same
Newcastle?
points as Rafa, didn't he? I think
not
he got
balancing,
down
not
to
balancing,
where did we
balancing
finish in the
Champions
league
League
under
or the
Bruce?
expectation of just winning the cup
13th and
or
14th.
playing
But I'm
2
just
games a
saying,
week.
where did Bruce
You've got
finish
to put
in his
things
last
into
season?
context. You cannot have a
13th.
conversation where you look a
I think
little bit silly by saying, let's just go off 38 games with Bruce and 38 games with Howe and not look at the context of it. It was actually 58 games in the season. It was on the back of 4 unbelievable years, on the back of winning the cup, expectation rising, Champions League, actual memories, going to knockout stages. You cannot then just compare 38 out of a 58 game season with 38 games from Steve Bruce.
To be fair with that, you say that, and as I say, I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't like Bruce, but you know, you look at what he had to work with, what he had to do with this club. You know, what the structure of the club was shit. You know, there was absolutely nothing at all here for him, and he had to do everything sort of off the cuff by himself. There was no passion to get into anything, as we all know. Ashley didn't give a shit about her. So, you know, everybody knew, you know, we were in a bad position under him.
I don't think Bruce was as bad as some people said.
Did he do quite a good job under the circumstances he was at the club under?
That's a different question, and I think he did.
I do too. I think he kept us up when everyone thought he would take us straight down 2 seasons in a row. And if it wasn't for him, maybe that takeover doesn't happen because
obviously
I'm not saying it's great either. But
Bruce actually, I agree with Boki on the last point. It wasn't. I think he probably overachieved at what any of us was expecting him to do. But you can't compare. You cannot compare Steve Bruce.
Andy Carroll, Joe Linton, and Dwight Gale as his strikers one season and kept the club up, which is not too bad, really.
Yeah.
Just basically on purely on the principle that, by all accounts, apparently, allegedly, Steve Bruce was jetting off on holiday half the time, and Eddie Howe was going to the training ground, working his arse off, for better or for worse, trying to come up with solutions.
There is fans who don't care about that one. I agree with you there, Tim. I agree 100%. But the problem is, there's fans who genuinely don't like. I see the commentating, and after one bad season out of 5, it is really bad. By the way, I'm not saying it's just one bad season. But there's people who are just like, I'm done with Howe. I'm never going to forgive him ever. No, I'm like, what are you talking about? That's a guy who literally give us some of the best memories of our lives. Like, how can you just be done with him? I get you can criticize him and you can think he's not the best for the job anymore. 100% you can, but you can't just be that disrespectful to someone who's give us so much, but it does me nothing anyway.
Yeah, I got.
On that
asked the
note,
question.
Do you guys not think Steve Bruce deserves a little bit more credit for what he
Yeah.
actually
No!
did?
Why?
For
on that note, Bogey, I'm gonna do a swap. So I'm out. I'm out and wins.
I cannot believe what I'm hearing here.
I've got a few
Cannot
things I need to do.
believe
I'm
what I'm
logging
Wins
hearing.
off.
over the last 19
I've
minutes.
had to
That was
come back
to defend
early
Howe.
from the quiz to get into this. Because this is utter nonsense to try and even think about comparing Eddie Howe
Thanks, Wayne.
with Steve Bruce. What a load of nonsense. I'm playing devil's advocate. You're talking
Bit harsh.
rubbish. He
On that
only
note-
heard yeah, dear me, man.
When I've got a funny feeling I'm going to be killed in your next book.
Exactly, I think so.
You better believe it.
You know, the murder of Bogey.
Well, the first one's semi-autobiographical, and the second one's going to be autobiographical, and I'm going to be on about YouTube channels where the people that are on don't know what they're talking about.
When I can do it, I can do an undisputed with you about Steve Bruce and argue the fact he's been a better manager than Eddie Howe for.
No.
Well,
promise you
no, the
that.
fact is you can't.
I don't know
I
why you want
can't.
to do that, Bogey.
You know,
Right,
Because
keep
because
digging,
Eddie-
son.
Eddie-
Keep
because
digging.
But no, I'll never come on here and stand up for Steve Bruce.
What are you
You
doing
look
now?
at
You're saying he's as good as Eddie
What
Howe.
what he had to work with and what Eddie Howe's had to work with are completely different.
When
I
Eddie
think-
first came, it was
Bruce,
similar.
Steve
No, hang
Bruce
on.
could
I think
possibly have
I think it was
done a better job
when I was
putting
in
us
the
in the
taxi.
Premier League to get into where we are now.
When I was in the taxi, I think it was DX that pointed out he was given, I think it was 25 million, which at the time was a lot of money, and blew the lot. And dear
125,
me,
wasn't
it even start to.
Hang on,
But
hang on,
anyway,
look,
what the
hang on,
reason?
hang
The
on.
reason I wanted to get.
no,
The
you're
reason I
talking
wanted to
bollocks
get
there.
to him early to get on
He's
here
missing us.
was to shut the Gordon knockers up. You've got what you wanted, he's out. Isn't it
Oh.
funny? Two of the biggest teams in Europe want Anthony Gordon. Oh, I wonder why. He must be well, their scouting recruitment teams obviously know nothing because they're both after him. Why are they both after him? Because he's a good player and because he works his socks off. Always has done, always will do. Even if he's having a bad game, even if the stats this season, when we haven't had a forward player to talk of, is in front of him, he still does the business. No.
Win, I'm gonna love you and leave you and the rest. You're on mute, mate. But so it's been great. I'm gonna do a swap with Win. The floor is his. Doesn't know it yet.
He's still good.
He's
I
still
know he's
good.
still gone. So yeah, thanks for joining us. But last
Fucking
15
love
minutes,
that,
I'm gonna
Gordon.
leave yous. Okay, take it easy, lads. Enjoy.
Oh, they're chatting to each other.
See you later, Tim.
See you, mate.
So, lads, do you think there's any justification trying to say that Bruce has been helped with better than Howe did due to the circumstances he was
Jesus
under?
Christ.
Look, I think I said, what was I can't remember, but if Brucey was in charge of this season, how quick would Newcastle fans want Brucey out? That's what I ask. And Newcastle fans, some of them want Eddie Howe out. But I just don't know.
I think it should
you
have been
can't
an
compare
alright
them.
season for Bruce, though. 12th. He would have taken that.
Well, yeah, but
You can't say you can't say Bruce contributed as much to Newcastle as Howe did. It can't even be a conversation.
Exactly.
It can't.
So there is a compensation there in regards
compensation.
to how
It's me that's been on the drink, man.
There is a conversation there in regards to who has actually done better with the money that they have had and the squads that they have had. Bruce kept winning the Premier League.
So
and look
did
at
Howe.
lad.
How
I'm
did
not sitting.
How
Fine, Bruce.
took over when Bruce hadn't won a game all season with the same squad and made
And
it
with the
finish
same
11th?
squad got them in the Champions League virtually.
Hang on. How many games did Howe lose this season?
Yeah, but that's
But
got
you're
nothing to do
talking-
with
you're
the, that's
talking
got
this
nothing
season.
to do with the original question. You're just hiding behind a different question. because
Exactly.
The original one was answered.
But I'm saying, how many games has Howe lost this
So that's a
season?
different question. You need to go back there with how took over Bruce's
How many
squad.
games is how?
Look, I'm
took
not
the
going to
lead,
sit
never
here and
lost?
justify. I'm not going to sit here and justify Bruce. I don't
Well,
think
why are you
Bruce was a
doing this
better
for then?
manager than Howe. But I do think there is a discussion to have over. There was different circumstances at each time, and did different managers manage it in better ways?
Even
Yeah,
if you
and-
even if you say this season, how even if you compare a 58 game season from Howe having the same amount of losses as a 38 game season from Bruce, right? And you compare not taking into the Champions League context and losing the same games, that's one season out of 5. The other 4 seasons under Eddie Howe, whether people want to be happy about it or not, were the 4 greatest years this club has seen in the last 50 years of its history, arguably.
Correct.
You could argue there's a couple from Keegan who come in and maybe one from Bobby when with the Feyenoord game. The 4 other seasons from Eddie Howe, whether people like him or not, want him, gone or not, have turned on him, will never accept him back or whatever. Them 4 years of M5 are the greatest. That 1 year, which has been the season gone, granted, isn't acceptable, right? Not good
Correct.
enough. No qualms about saying that at all. But you can then not compare him to Steve Bruce. It's just what he's brought to the club. Steve Bruce didn't bring 300,000 people or whatever it was to the town moor and the streets of Newcastle by winning. I know people say it's only the Carabao Cup or whatever, but
Only.
literally to us, it meant the world. Like, it was uncomparable what that meant to Newcastle fans who were 70, 80, 90 years old, all the way down to like 5 years old. Like, regardless, them two cannot be mentioned in the same name. I actually think, away from the Eddie Howe comparison, Bruce was probably harshly treated at Newcastle, in my opinion. And I think he did better than what most people give him credit for. I agree with that. But there's no comparison. You cannot put Eddie Howe in the same name as Steve Bruce.
So if Bruce had been given the same sort of freedom that Howe's got under this same leadership in the last windows, do you think he would have done worse then? Do you think?
Probably.
We can't really say that. None of us can answer that
You
question.
can't.
Really, can we?
We can't answer the question, but you look.
But
at
I
the
think
players-
if you give
you
anyone
you look at the player. Actually, well, I think we quite can. You look at the type of players Bruce signed. Wilson, great player. Joe Linton, we'll say a good player forward.
Not under Bruce, he wasn't.
You know, so how come Eddie Howe gets all the credit when Bruce actually signed probably the better players forward?
Because how under Bruce there weren't great players, like Joe Linton wasn't. Willock,
Yeah, but
Willock,
Joe Linton,
Willock up
I
in the
don't think-
Purple Patch wasn't great. Murphy wasn't great. Eddie Howe came in and coached them players again.
Not-
Another
I
thing
wou- I
I've
wou-
seen this season.
I wouldn't say he
can't coach
coached
anybody.
Joe Linton. I don't think he didn't coach Joe Linton, though, did he? Because Joe Linton got private training, didn't he? Under Brucey, and he went and got private training where he was practicing his shooting better.
But he was. You can't say that Joe Linton wasn't a better player under Eddie Howe. So obviously something had to do with the position.
Because he fell in the midfield, didn't he? Because we got that he dropped it in the midfield, didn't he? By someone getting sent off.
So Kev, just on your point there, just on your point there, what players have improved under Eddie Howe that he signed? So Wilson, but likes of Wissa, Elanga.
You're going to this.
How
about Livramento?
That proved that Bruce
Tino.
didn't improve the other players.
Because again, it takes
How
time.
about
doesn't it?
Dan
But if you-
Burn?
Yeah, Burn.
How about
Tino,
How about
Hall.
Willock
How
under
about
Bruce?
how good
Isaac
was
wasn't-
Harvey
Willock
Barnes, who was
plays
in the
in
How
England
good was
squad?
Willock under Bruce?
No, that was a purple patch. You can't. No, that was not Willock's level.
Right.
Everyone knows that wasn't Willock's level. We got very lucky when he came in and scored in. Was it 8 games, 10 games in a row?
And it was
Willock in the
it
season we finished
It
fourth
was Willock that
was a
kept-
much better player than
kept
the
Bruce
original Willock.
in the division. That
Lad.
particular purple patch. It was those goals that kept us safe.
Lads, I was scratching a little bit of an itch there, so it was just wind up really. And I completely
I just-
agree. How's a better manager? How's a better manager than Bruce? But there are arguments to be made on the other side. So we're moving on to next season now. You know, we've had the boring side of it of
No,
calling
I
out
haven't come
how.
on. I haven't going to come on to talk about next season. I've come on
Well,
to
go
talk
on then.
about
Yeah.
Anthony
Have your rant
Gordon.
about
Anthony
Anthony
Gordon.
Gordon.
Anthony Gordon. Go on then, Win.
Come on, you
Going to
change your shirt, please. Don't
Barcelona.
repeat the same.
Going to Barcelona. Who would have thought of that? Why would Barcelona or Bayern Munich be wanting this horrible player that all our fans have been calling out all season? Because he hasn't got this and he hasn't got that. And all of it. Oh, hang on. Oh, I think we'll have him. Well, they must
But
have
Win,
lousy scouting and
I don't
recruitment
think
teams.
I don't think anybody's ever come on this channel and said Gordon's a lousy player. Don't think
No,
anybody's
he's a
ever
good
Oh,
done
I
player.
think they have.
He's a
Like,
good
regularly.
player. He's a good player, and he'll go on to Barcelona and be a brilliant star.
And I wonder why.
But because he's a good player.
No, because they'll be playing pressing, attacking football that we were playing for the first 3 years on the Howe. That all of the channel, all of the panel, all of the pundits in our fraternity are saying is unsustainable. You can't play pressing football anymore. You would do one runners. We're doing one this, that, and the other.
This
We
took a
want
bit of a turn.
skillful
Then.
players.
So this is a bit of a turn. So whose decision was it to change that style of football?
It was Eddie's decision because he was told when Mitchell came in that this is not sustainable. The best football I've watched in my life was Eddie Howe playing pressing football. And what we didn't have then was the squad to maintain that.
So you get a top class manager, Kev. You get a top class manager, and you sort of ask them to play a certain style of football that goes against the grain of the team you've got. What would they tell you to do? What would a manager you'd expect to say to them?
You've got to earn your right to turn around and say no to the owners like Pep's and stuff like that and Mourinho's. Personally, I think Howe might have earned it to turn if I was the owner and Howe turned around and said, "Get him gone,"
and
I'd
that's
be
what
like,
he did.
Fair.
He'd earned the right, and that's exactly what he did. He turned around, he got rid of Mitchell. I don't care what anybody says. As far as I'm concerned, it was Howe that got rid of Mitchell. It was him or me kind of thing. And then the problem was then he had to decide, what am I going to do? He decided what he was going to do in this summer after it happened and said, right, I want him. And because of the Hijack nonsense, he got none of them.
I think going back to Gordon very quickly, I don't know if he'll be a success at Barcelona. Not because I've never come on here and slated Gordon, by the way. I've never been one of them. But I think he'll struggle because if Barcelona play the style of football where no it's high press and it's like end to end for about 20 minutes, but then we tend to look after the ball and get the breath back a little bit.
Yeah.
When we've had possession this season, that's when I think Gordon has struggled because he's got so much pace and he's got so many strengths where if he's got space to run into, he looks amazing. I think he might struggle with the style early on at Barcelona. Doesn't mean that he won't adapt and get it right, by the way. I'm not saying he's going to flop or fail, but I think he might struggle early on just because the style of play will be very different of dominating the ball and them sitting deep. And I think that's where Gordon, for me, probably struggled a little bit. And I think the thing with Gordon as well, I don't know, obviously Wynn's on here more than me, so he probably does know people. I've never slated Gordon, but I think the only thing with Gordon is I've always expected, I don't know what it was, I think it was his first full season at Newcastle, he was like unplayable. It's incredible, scored in all the big games against the top four. I think
that's what he's getting called for now. He only turns it on for the big teams, he only turns it on for the big games.
He always did well against the big clubs, even from early on. I think for me with Gordon, I've always kind of been wanting him to like, especially with Howe, and like I said to you about getting the best out of players, I've always been thought, he's really gonna turn into like not a Cristiano Ronaldo, but like a modern day more athletic version and less skill version of that, and he just never did. And I was always a little bit like, wanting more, I guess. But I'm a little bit, am I gutted? When it first came about, I was, like before the season, and I was a bit like, I don't want to lose Gordon. Now I think it's probably what's needed, not because of Gordon, but I think just the situation we're in, it's needed that we just get some big players out, some fresh players in, and have like a massive rebuild. So less gutted for that reason, but it's not a personal thing against Gordon for me. I just think tactically at Barcelona, we might struggle early on.
I,
it's
I,
far
I,
from
Your
so
I
thoughts,
just
show,
think
show, show 'em what's your thoughts on Gordon. What do you think about him? What do
No,
you
I
think
think
if
he's
he
a good.
goes?
I think he's a good player. Like you know what I mean. He's talented. Um, but to me, I'm not bothered if he goes or stays. Do you know what I mean? If he goes, it gives us that money to bring in better player. Do I think he'll Do I think he'll be a absolute great signing for Barca? Yes, but I think he'll have to adapt to Barca's style because they seem to like have that slow build up play. They like to keep the ball a lot. But no, I just think there's better players out there than Gordon.
we'll get the money and buy a
Do,
better player than Gordon. We'll
yeah.
buy it.
Do,
We'll buy a different player who presumably Barcelona could have had. If we're going to go and get him,
DX, do you
Barcelona could
feel
have
the
got him.
same? Do you think sort of Gordon's not going to be a big miss?
I think he's one of those players that's like very kind of like a good symbol of the modern game where his statistics, his numbers, his if you want like end product over the time that he's been here overall has been much better than other wingers we've had like Robert. Well, no, actually, no. Robert did score a lot of goals.
Don't
No,
you
but like
start.
Ginola is a better example. Ginola only scored 6 goals in 2 seasons and got about 12 assists, I think, something like that. And then if you look at Gordon compared to that, it's on a different level, right? But I've found him quite a boring footballer to watch. So I don't know if there's a bit of that turmoil within me of I've never found him. He scored a few good goals. Don't get me wrong, and I feel like he lost a bit of his fire at some point. I think maybe it was when he got red carded against Brighton, was it? And he just never had the same fire. I know he got a red card against Liverpool when he was firing around in that game in the first 20 minutes. But a functional footballer who's been effective. Uh, he's got the numbers to back up, certain things. A lot of them have been penalties, but not a very fun footballer.
Only this season.
I haven't enjoyed watching him though. Like I say, I mean, I
Yeah.
used to enjoy Nobby Solano and Ginola and Robert. They were fun players, and Robert and Solano did have the end product. So I don't know.
I think it's
But you
served.
see,
I think it's served both well. Like Gordon's come here and become a bigger name, and we've done well for him and put him on a bigger stage than what Everton could have. And I think he's done brilliant for us. His output, as DX has said, has been fantastic for us. He's done really well at the time we need, and we're then making a profit on him in a world of football, which is all about squad cost ratio and making a profit. So I think he
Yeah,
can leave on good terms. Like he never went on strike. He never let the club down in terms of. I know he had bad games, but my God, all footballers are buying. I think it'd be quite a nice mutual. Thank you for what you did for us. He'll probably say it in Newcastle.
yeah.
Thank you for putting me on the stage I needed to be to get this next move. I think it's a nice. There's nothing wrong. This never happens at Newcastle. I don't know why, but it can just be a shake of a hand. Thank you very much. We served your purpose. You served our purpose. Hopefully, we might meet again. We might not. Who knows? I mean, I hope we meet again in terms of the game because it means we're probably in the Champions League again. But yeah, like I think it can be quite a nice goodbye, which never happens at Newcastle. I think that, again, is part of the Newcastle. I could write a book on Newcastle fans in terms of the good and the bad
Uh-huh.
sides of it.
And I think when you take out,
So come on then, Win. You give us your final thoughts on Gordon. You've jumped on the night to defend the lad.
Specifically,
You know,
specifically
yeah,
you got
just
20
so
minutes
come
to
on,
take it out.
you get the final shout on Gordon.
well, all I'm saying is I think the treatment he's had from fans this season has been despicable, and it has been they need somebody to blame, and the two people that they've chosen to blame for this season have been Eddie Howe and Anthony Gordon, and everything good that they ever do or have ever done just gets thrown away with a bathwater, and that boils my urine. It's just ridiculous. People have expectations way above where they should be, and we're told that that's only natural, that's where we should be. No, it's not. We need to know, we need to realize where we are in the pecking order. And Anthony, the fact that we've got two of the biggest clubs in Europe fighting for a player that 90%, I would say, of our fan base can't wait to get rid of. I just don't understand it. I
So-
do not
What do you think of the fee?
understand it.
70 million, is that about right? Could we have snuck a bit more in, maybe?
It's 80 with add-ons, is it?
80 on man.
80 with add-ons. Well, that's a
Yeah.
really good
But
price.
80
if he
million.
goes to, if Gordon goes to Barca, would you take Rashford? Because when I was at the Barca game, a lot of Barca fans wanted Rashford
About
to
30,
actually
right?
sign.
No, I wouldn't take Rashford.
I think
I
he's,
would
I
rather
think he's
have.
30
I
now,
would
isn't he?
every day of the week. I would rather have Anthony Gordon
29
than
maybe.
Rashford.
Gordon's better than Rashford now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, actually, Rashford, 8 goals in
Well,
32.
you know, we are just
Barcelona.
we are amateur pundits giving our opinions. Day in day out. Barcelona have got a crack team of paid professionals, and they've got the choice between Rashford, who they've already got.
On loan, yeah.
It's not going to cost them
By the
80
way,
million
for
quid.
26 million as well.
Well,
Did,
okay.
did, did,
So he's going to.
when can I ask you a quick question? Do you think Gordon will start the first game of the World Cup? If he wants to, will he start?
Well, what Thomas Tuchel thinks, I have got no idea
Because here's my point. We've went through the last 8 games of our season. We've had a crap season. Let's be honest. Premier League wise, we've been rubbish. We've finished below the Mackhams. We haven't been able to do anything. That lad hasn't came on the pitch once over the last few games, over the last 7 games.
How did say
that's Eddie Howe
How the
saying.
hell? And you know what? You're saying he's the best player we've got up front. He probably is. So, and he's obviously been fit. This hip injury's a load of shit. Why
Well,
hasn't he
Dominic,
started games?
why would you play a player who you know is not going to be there next season?
Exactly, he's looking to the future, Eddie.
Because he's our
Good
best
on him.
player. He's
They were
our best
protecting the
player.
sale. They were protecting the sale.
Yeah, you don't want him to get injured. You don't want him to break his leg. Then you're going to lose 80 million for a player who doesn't want to be
come
there.
on,
But then if
anyway.
that's
Come
the
on,
case,
lad,
then
come
if
on.
that's the case, then
Come
you
on,
need to get
lad.
the sign.
In
You need
which
to get the
case,
sale done now.
you don't play football anymore.
Because if we
If
don't
you
get
think that your best player can't play because there's a chance they might get injured and they want to move on, that's ridiculous.
It's happened
Yeah, but then
before.
that's the
What actually
same.
happens? What actually happens if he does play? He does get a cruciate ligament injury.
Then
And then you lose the transfer fee of 80 million. You've got a player who had his heart set on
yeah, but
a
then get your
foreign
get your
move to
business done
Bayern.
early.
What do you then do when he comes back to full fitness? Do you just stick with him and hope he kind of gets back to what he was, or and you play
but
them
if
in a
you-
season where there's not much to play for?
You've got to admit, if you've got a player that's your best player in the team, you want them to play.
Yeah, but
Then
that's
you're
true.
the
But
best
if you
player.
want, yeah, but if you want that, if you're not going to play him, and he wants to go to World Cup, you get that transfer done now before that World Cup starts.
I think it will. I think
That's what you need to do.
Romano-
Because like you said, if he gets injured, you've lost it.
That's the
Yeah,
beauty, but that's the one beauty about the transfer.
Yeah, so you need to get that
It's
transfer
gonna
done.
get
I think
done.
Fabrizio
It's
Romano
gonna-
said it'll be done pretty much when the first day opens in Spain. I think
June
it'll
the
be.
15th.
Yeah, well, apparently, that
2
was
weeks.
that was
2 and a
that
bit
was
weeks.
that was one of the conditions that
One,
Barcelona put on the deal that it was done.
I wonder if we put a sell on.
well, obviously over time a little bit here, but one more question before we go: how many more players do you see like going? So, how many big players do you see actually going in this window?
One more.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
you
I
first
think we'll
win.
let one
I have a
more
funny
go.
feeling Sandro Tonali, there might be something going on.
Who do you think win? We'll go around the panel. Go on, win. Who do you think might go?
Well, just to address your question first of all, who do you think will start in the first game of the World Cup for England? And the question is obviously asked on the basis of will it be Rashford or Gordon who starts? When the manager is the same manager who has picked Tino Livramento, who hasn't kicked the ball for 2 months now, in front of Lewis Hall, who's been quality performances for a full season. I've got no idea who'll start.
I think he'll start Gordon.
I think he probably will. Yeah, but
But if you're asking who I would start between Rashford and Gordon, it would be Gordon every time.
yeah.
Good deflection, but who would you think might be the next player to leave, or who do you think might be the next couple of players to leave?
I think if Tino proves his fitness in the World Cup, I think he'll definitely be away. The fact that he's had this contract on the table for months now, if if it's true what we've been led to believe, and hasn't signed it, so he is definitely going. Tonali is the other big kind of worry.
Hopefully not Bruno. I mean, there's been a few little.
That's it.
Anybody
that would
from you,
break my
Sean?
heart if Bruno.
See, I think Tonali, Tino maybe but I've got a feeling Lewis Hall.
Oh,
Bloody hell, that would be a nightmare.
Well,
DX, anybody from you?
Well, yeah, I just think Tonali. I don't know why, but I just got a funny feeling Tonali's 26, and is he going to stumble around not playing European football for another year? Be 27 in a year, of course. And then a lot of the big teams kind of keep a bit clear of players once they get to that age, unless they're on free transfers or unless it's a Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi type figure. Then you'd obviously buy them, even if they're 32 or whatever. So I think he might see it as a pivotal summer in his career, that he might put a few feelers out, and who knows, he might. So Tonali, I think, might be the one. Sadly,
Maybe the one. Kev?
Yeah, I think Tonali, I used to kind of think Italy can't afford him, so we're okay. But with Man United being, in my opinion, the biggest club in England and back in the Champions League, and Casemiro leaving, it almost lines up with Tonali's almost one of the perfect
so I think
replacements.
they would have wanted Anderson, but then Tonali can probably do what Anderson does, can't he? So
Yeah. So Tonali's a worry. Tino, definitely. I think, again, Tonali's agent has openly said he's going to assess options, so that's no surprise. Tino hasn't signed that new contract, so again, if he has a good World Cup. But again, it's a fullback. If you can get 60 million plus for a fullback, I think you're doing pretty well anyway, as long as you kind of have a plan. I think for me, I don't mind who goes. We need to be a little bit better, a little bit like a Brighton, a bit like a Bournemouth, just in terms of have a squad plan where if somebody leaves, who are the three options who we can approach to come in and replace that player for less money and keep making a profit. I think that's where we're at the minute as a club. But yeah, I think Tonali and Tino are the two main worries. But just to go back to if Bruno was to leave, that would rip the soul out of the club at the minute. If Bruno goes, Christ almighty, that would be devastating.
Have we got anything else for the night, or is that about it? Anybody got anything they want to bring up before we go?
Barnes apparently open to Aston Villa. I don't know how true it is. It's all. This isn't official. This isn't like anything, but it's just what I've been reading online before coming here. But Barnes is open to having a discussion with a Champions League team. Villa is the one who's been linked, and then the money was between 40 to 45 million. Which, to be honest,
28, isn't he?
Barnes' numbers are good. He does in a few years at times as a winger, but it'll be interesting.
I mean, clever business at that price, though, isn't it? It's clever business.
Yeah,
sell him for that sort of money.
29 this year, isn't he, Barnes?
Mm-hmm. You get 40 million.
In his prime.
Aye.
Yeah, no.
His
to lose Gordon and Barnes is sort of rolling the dice quite a bit, though, isn't it? You're going, go on, then we'll try and shove Wisser on the left, or we'll buy some random player.
Joe Linton can do well on the left, but he's not an out-and-out left winger. But he could do a job there.
I think Joe Linton's got to be used less next season, doesn't he? He can't be a go-to player sort of thing. He's because of his age and because of
his age is in his prime, man.
It's his body letting him down.
But money talks, bro. I mean, if they offer us 40 million for 28-year-olds, we're probably going to take it.
I agree.
Anyway, guys, we've went well over the night with time slots, so thank you very much to everybody who's tuned in. Remember to whack those likes on the way out, because it really helps. Subscribe if you're new, and if you can't, become a member.
Look at all these.
It's going to be a long. It's going to be a long summer. Let's face it. But you can watch us, and we'll bring you all the latest news, and we'll bring you everything that's new in the ethos out there of Newcastle United Football Club. And we'll also have Win here who will talk rubbish all season. So, cheers, guys. Thank you very much for the night, and we will see you soon. See you tomorrow. Ta-da.
Pleasure.
Catch you later. Away the lads.
Lasses and bairns.